Okay, just two things that I'd like to announce before we go on with the sheet. The first one is that when we're talking about the vitamin C, we forgot to mention that we're using the Rosehip Vital, which Hank has back there.
You have that, Hank?
Oh, you got one here, Greg.
And here it is. This has a very high quantity of vitamin C in it. 100% pure, dried, and ground rose hips with 0.25% honey. No artificial additives. So this is for people that are on the run and we cannot get that fruit in and we need an extra supply of vitamin C. Here it is.
On that point. From my understanding, it's also that even by having a lot of fruit, if it's not tree ripened, you're not getting your dosage of vitamin C coming into your body. And when Greg mentioned to me last year there was a good rosehip or a good vitamin C supply in the Sydney area, I investigated it, and that's what's come up with the Rosehip Vital. The process they use is the extraction is below 40 degrees centigrade and it's done in darkness. Now, even though it's a very good product, with the problems we have with our digestive systems, we probably still only absorb about 20%. But this is one of the facts we're living with. You know, whether it's Rosehip Vital, the vitamin C, or spirulina, for instance. That's why it's so important if we can get it in a fermented form that we get that 98% absorption rate. That's where we will benefit the most. So, as a supplement, this one is very highly recommended. They are doing and have done studies with that in Denmark. They have not, excuse me, they have not publicized their findings yet because they're waiting for the findings to be publicized in the Lancet. That's the British medical journal. Until they do that, we are a bit bound by what we can say about this product. But hopefully that'll be happening in the next few months.
Okay, and the other thing I just wanted to show you was we do have now available the body electronics bags, which Kate Meyer is doing, Kate and Alan at Grainfields. So for anybody who needs Christmas presents or things like that, we have body electronics bags now. We also have the body electronics pants. Hank may model them tomorrow, and and tops. Okay. So next, what are we up to?
We're down here on the sheet page 4 of the patient guide here, where it says eat fruits alone and 1/2 hour before eating veggies and protein meals. Reason for this is that the fruits digest quickly. And then if you have the fruits eaten second, then that piles in on top of the veggies and protein, which takes longer to digest. Now, the fruits also require an alkaline secretion when it gets into the small intestine to digest further, where the protein and veggies require an acid secretion. Now, if you have both the acid and alkaline needed, then neither one are satisfied, and then it ferments in there. And this is why you do not mix your fruits and veggies, but take them roughly a 1/2 hour, even 45 minutes apart, like you take your fruits first and then your veggies and protein. Now, people who are taking lots of enzymes, everything digests. And this is the enzymes digest everything that you put in your stomach. And so when you go down through the small intestine, it's already digested and it's not going to ferment on you. But if people have serious digestion problems, which about 95% of the people do, where they have decreased pancreatic activity, then you're going to have gas and fermentation and a lot of problems there. So I think that should be mentioned.
Okay, next one, P, give up gradually all junk food. Now, I was looking at some of the labels the other day in the supermarket on the chocolates, and I actually found the artificial sweeteners in the chocolates. They used to just put sugar in there before, but now they're actually putting the artificial sweeteners in.
NutraSweet.
NutraSweet in the chocolate. I won't mention the name brand. I don't know if they all do it, but I did notice it on one of them. And there's a tremendous amount of sugar also in the junk foods. And I find if you eat sugar, then you're going to want more sugar, and the more sugar you eat, the more you want. So I know it's like a catch-22. People get addicted to chocolate and things like this, or other junk foods, but we really have to make an effort to get off of it. It robs the body of a lot of vital vitamins that you need. Okay, Q, begin eating more fresh and raw foods. I would say organic, fresh and raw organic foods.
I wanted to say here that a food that is fresh and raw, that hasn't been sitting on the shelf for 3 weeks or so after it's been harvested, but fresh and raw food, fruit, veggies, and so on, it has in it all of the enzymes necessary to digest that particular fruit or vegetable. Now, this is wherein you're going to, how am I going to say this? Because we haven't covered a lot of things, so we're going to hit a little piece of the puzzle separate from a lot of other teaching later on. But when you're eating your fresh and raw food, you have enough enzymes in that food to digest that food that you're eating. But you do not have, and this is extremely important, you do not have the enzymes necessary to correct long-standing enzyme deficiencies in the body. And this is why we're going to be spending a little bit of time on enzymes a little later on, because this is the most important part of the entire program. Because without enzymes, you cannot assimilate minerals. Without enzymes and minerals, you cannot assimilate your vitamins. Without your enzymes, minerals, and your vitamins, then you can't handle your essential fatty acids. And you go right on down the line. And so we have to start out with the enzymes, which will be the first most crucial point to deal with. And fresh and raw food will not supply the correction on long-standing enzyme deficiencies. So we need to have extra enzymes that come from vegetarian sources, and we'll discuss this. And I know that a lot of people recommend different digestive materials like ox bile and so on, different things that come from different animals to help to digest things. But that only helps with digestion. It doesn't correct the enzyme deficiencies. And yet a lot of people feel, well, all you have to do is digest your food and you're going to be all right. That is not so. That does not correct long-standing deficiencies in the body, which will require additional enzymes to the diet.
Okay, any questions on that? This is where I think we need to really look at going into a lifestyle where we can grow our own food, where we can go outside and pick the lettuce and make a salad. You know, pick the pawpaw off the tree and make the smoothie. Because we don't know how long these foods are in the supermarkets or the health food stores losing their nutrients. The minute you pick it off the tree, it's losing nutrients. Okay, next one. When possible, drink the milk from the new coconut and eat soft flesh. Well, there's a coconut in the islands that they call the new coconut. It's a green coconut, And inside, the flesh is very soft, and you can scoop it up and eat it, and it's very delicious, and you drink that liquid. And in that liquid, in that soft flesh, you have the essential fatty acids, which are necessary to clean out the arteries. However, the flax oil has a much greater percentage of essential fatty acids than the coconut. The coconut has about 1%, whereas the flax oil has about, I'd say about 98%, 95 to 98% essential fatty acids. However, we did have this one lady in the Cook Islands. She had no money whatsoever, no money to buy any supplements at all, and she had a problem, cardiovascular, a terrible cardiovascular problem, and we told her about the coconut. Well, she went out and she ate, how many a day? 6 coconuts a day, and she cleared her problem up. She cleared her whole problem up. She just ate 6 coconuts a day. And all she had to do was go to the trees and pick them and get them and eat them. And I just marveled at her because she, you know, here's somebody taking the information and using it, and she improved her health. So it does work. So if you are on a desert island and you don't have your flax oil, you could always use coconuts.
Now, flax oil comes from linseed, and the linseed is approximately 67% of what you call your flax oil. So when you cold press the linseed, you get then about 2/3 of that linseed is going to be your flax oil. Now, what a lot of people do is they sprout, germinate the flax seed, and then it becomes very soft, and then they put it into a blender and blend it up with other things to use as a salad dressing or as a part of a smoothie, and they get their flax oil that way. Where about 3 heaping dessert spoons of flaxseed would give you your about 2 dessert spoons full of your flax oil. And so if you do that 3 times a day, you've got it. Now, a lot of people are doing that and saving a lot of money by using the flaxseed directly. Now, if I recall correctly, the coconut contains about 3% of flax oil for your essential fatty acids. And so if you're taking about 1 dessert spoonful of coconut would be equivalent to about 30, shall we say 1 dessert spoonful of flax oil would be equivalent to about 30 spoonsful of coconut. And so she figured that about 2 coconuts a day would give you the same amount of flax oil as the needs for your flax. It'll give you the same equivalent amount of essential fatty acids as you get from the flax oil. That's what I want to say.
2 coconuts per meal.
Pardon me?
2 coconuts per meal.
2 coconuts per meal. Now, I'll tell you what, she did it and she got well. And so there are ways of looking around and finding out what you can do about this to save money, especially if you're living in a place where you can grow what you need. Now, the new coconut in the Cook Islands is also used medicinally. And I'm not going to go into all those different things, but you gather the new coconut from beside the lagoon where you have your highly mineralized water. And the coconuts take in all of that from the lagoon, take in all the highly mineralized material there, and that is when your coconut juice is the best. During the Second World War, in the Pacific, many of the soldiers were dropped off on the Cook Islands. There was no plasma anywhere, but there were a lot of coconuts, and they took the coconuts, and they took the juice of the coconut, and they filtered it very finely and used that for plasma, and all of the soldiers then survived. And so the coconut juice was used as a plasma, literally, in these areas during the Second World War, and somehow they made it through. Just a thought for you.
It's great in the smoothies, too, the coconut milk juice. The ones you find in the can, I believe, has been heated to a high temperature. So it wouldn't be beneficial because that would be like a heated fat again. So unfortunately, we can't use the canned one, even though it does taste nice. Okay. Eat pawpaw or papaya seeds, if available, on a regular basis to help the colon to properly eliminate. Now, I talked with a lot of the older women there on the island, and they used to give the pawpaw seeds to the children every day so they don't have parasites in. It eliminates the parasites, the pawpaw seeds. So if you can eat some every day, and you're not a woman and you're not wanting to get pregnant, this will help to keep those parasites in check.
Dry or fresh?
Well, there we used to eat it fresh, but probably dried would
I
probably.
think I'd better talk about something here. Let's talk about the functioning of the placenta relative to pregnancy and under the influence of the pawpaw seeds. For example, a woman who has never become pregnant, when she becomes pregnant by her husband, then the child will be a cross between the mother and the father. There's no question about that. But what a lot of people do not understand is that due to the protomorphogens and the activity on the female body, the woman then is no longer herself. She's 50% her husband. And she takes on the genetic material of her husband through the protomorphogen activity, which comes about through conception. Now, for example, if I have a short-haired rabbit, this is called telegony. If I have a short-haired female rabbit that mates with a long-haired male rabbit, the children are going to be mixed. The little rabbits are going to be all mixed. But what happens is that female short hair looks like a female short hair, but in reality she's now a cross between the male long hair and the female short hair. So let's say that this female short hair in the next litter, I guess you call them litters, don't you? In the next litter, she mates with a short-haired male. The children will still have, some of them will still have long hair. And that shows that the woman now, or the female, becomes a cross between the male and the female. Now, pertaining to the high protease content in the seeds of the pawpaw, the protease does not know the difference between your abnormal tissue and placenta tissue, because your placenta tissue is oftentimes like your trophoblastic tissue, which is called cancerous tissue. And so what happens is the protease will attack the formation of your placenta tissue. So a woman gets pregnant. She's now a cross between the mate and herself. The protease in the papaya seeds will dissolve the placenta in its incipient stages, and therefore all that is gone. But the woman is still left now. She's not only herself, but she has 50% of the characteristics of her mate. A lot of women feel they don't have to worry about who their mate is, and so they go out here and take a lot of pawpaw seeds and so on. But the pawpaw seeds causes a miscarriage after the pregnancy takes place. And so a woman is left hung then with the emotional nature and the physical characteristics on a genetic level with the one she mated with. And from that time on, any future children will have the characteristics of that person that she mated with. Any question on this? So technically, the papaya seeds causes miscarriages.
Or, yeah, abortion.
Abortions, spontaneous abortion, after that has happened. Now, there are those people who believe that once a conception has occurred, that should be carried on through with to fruition and not allow anything to interfere with the process of life. Now, I think I better talk to you about this. We're going to discuss this tomorrow. If you don't mind, I'm going to get into it. In our work, for example, my very first patient, when I really got involved in this, this was back in 1958, when I was doing some very heavy work on a person who was in the state mental institution up in Washington, the state of Washington. She came out on a weekend. She had total amnesia, and she could not remember anything of her past. She had been in a car wreck. She had a severe whiplash, and her head went through the windscreen, and she was in bad shape. Her mother brought her to me while she was able to see her during one of the holidays. And so I worked with her for 12 and a half hours. And what happened in working with her, we restored the nerve supply and circulation to her body, which was terribly numb. And during that time, she re-experienced the wreck of being in a heavy downpour on one of the motorways. And in this heavy downpour, she couldn't see temporarily. And she was going at a high speed, and all she could see was lights approaching right from the front. She could remember then the crunching of the metal and the cracking of the glass. And suddenly, she was in full memory, came back pertaining to her car wreck. She also had the memory of her whiplash and re-experienced that, and several major problems in her neck and back healed up instantly. It just, this is how fast this stuff works when you get full memory, a return of that which has been suppressed. We'll talk about this tomorrow. But part of the problem, why the mother brought her to me, she said that during the first 30-some years of her life, she made life absolutely miserable for the mother. The mother's name was Doris. And Doris didn't understand why. From the time that she conceived, she was kicking in the womb and doing everything from the time she was born to really make life miserable for the mother. The mother didn't understand this. And so she asked me, if you can find this out from my daughter, I'd be grateful. Well, after the daughter's full memory had returned, she had an amazing photographic memory of what they call eidetic recall. She remembered everything. And I said, would you please tell me why in your earlier years you had such a hateful disposition toward your mother? And she said, because my mother aborted me. I said, I beg your pardon? My mother aborted me. Would you explain that to me, please? She said, on such and such a date, I can see the doctor's office where this took place. It was back during the Depression, when the mother became pregnant as a young lady by her lover. But she was unable to take care of the child, and she didn't want to tell the husband, the boyfriend, because it'd be too hard on him, because he couldn't take care of her. And during the Depression, things were pretty heavy and pretty bad. Nobody had any work, and much less food. And so she elected to go and have an abortion under the circumstances, never told a living soul. Well, it happened to be the spirit of this girl that waited around for a number, about 7 or 8 more years, before she was actually born again in another body. But when she got aborted at that time, she vowed, I will never forgive my mother, and I'll make life absolutely miserable for her. And so she waited around until the mother got married, then got pregnant, and she came into that little body and made life just miserable for the mother. I scratched my head, and I didn't know quite how to handle that. And because at that time I didn't understand really about this sort of thing, it's the first time I ran into it. Maybe when you get into point holding, you'll have memories of this too, because we've had lots of times when one young man that visited us just recently, if you remember, his mother got pregnant, and the man didn't want the child and kicked the mother repeatedly in the belly until the mother miscarried. And the mother fell down the stairs, lost the child, and then several years later married another man. Got pregnant, and this little child came forth at that time who's a very dear friend of mine, and Anita's. And at that time, he was able to remember on the point holding table during point holding, and he went through this stillborn delivery and repeated blows to his little fetus that has memory during the time he was in the mother's womb. And he said, and he remembered dying in the womb. And then he re-experienced being born several years later to the same mother. The mother never said anything to the boy about that. And so this young man went to, who is to his, he's now 70, by the way, but this young man at that time went to his mother and said to her, Mother, were you married before my father? And she says, no, I was not. Then he repeated to her his experience of being kicked to the top of the stairs by the boyfriend at that time, and the woman then miscarried, and then he told his mother that that little miscarriage was him in his prior existence. Are you all hearing me? Okay. Now, this other lady that I told you about that had the amnesia and the car wreck and so on, I called up the mother and said, Doris, you better come up to see me. And I just moved into another home in Portland, Oregon at that time, so she came up to see me. I sat her down over here, and I sat the daughter down over here. I said, now look, I don't understand all of this, and you two are going to have to work this out. But Doris, I just want you to sit there and listen to what your daughter has to say. And she went through her situation and went through her memory of the abortion in the Bedell building in Portland, Oregon, which is kind of at that time, quite a few medical doctors were there. And she told her whole story, the date and everything. And the mother broke down, turned ashen white, and said, how did you know this? I have never told a living soul. And she went ahead and said how she decided at that time that she was going to stick around, and then when she got pregnant again, she was going to have that little child, that little baby body, and then make this life just a living hell for the mother for having aborted her prior to that time. The mother then simply broke down and cried and cried and cried for maybe an hour, hour and a half. And the daughter went over and put her arms around her and said, Mama, I'm sorry for treating you badly. I understand why this has all happened. Let's just let bygones be bygones. We're here now. Let's pick up where we should have picked up many years ago. And they became very fast, loving couple of daughter and mother. Now, my question is oftentimes on the question of abortion. Now, you better understand this, okay, as you get into body electronics, because oftentimes this scares some people off. While the mother is under the anesthetic during the abortion, the spirit of the unborn child during that unconsciousness goes into the energy field of the mother. And the mother from that time on feels terrible. She doesn't know why she feels the way she feels. She just feels like she's dying, dying, dying. And for years afterwards, she feels like she's dying with the word pattern, I'm dying, which were actually the word pattern of the little child that was being suctioned out or giving an acid bath or something like that, whatever it took to kill the little child. You follow me? But the spirit was fully aware of that. And the child then being put under tremendous duress would go unconscious and then would be trapped in the mother's energy field from that time on. So oftentimes then during the point holding, that little child is made known by the word patterns that it had, and you have what you call an entity involvement, where the entity is the actual activity of the unborn child coming forth from the hole in the auric field, which is now being closed up by the restoration of nerve supply and circulation to the body. Do you understand this? Okay, because what the point holding does is the point holding will restore the nerve supply and circulation to the body, and if there is a hole in the auric field which was caused by drugs or by a near-death experience or by any type of a trauma to the body, then that hole in the aura will oftentimes pull in like energy by the law of attraction, and the entity involvement will be there. Now, sometimes the entity coming out of the body is very, very real, and the mother on the table will actually go through with the little sounds of a tiny baby voice saying, please don't kill me, please don't kill me. And when the mother understands what she has done, then she vows that she'll never do that again, because she now understands the problems with abortion and how many women, from a statistical point of view, has a lot of nervous disorders as a result of the abortion that they have had. This is a matter of fact, not a matter of fancy. And so one stand that we have taken then is don't get pregnant if you don't intend to keep the child. Not only for your own sake, but for the sake of the unborn child. And this is not politically or socially acceptable in some circles, because in some circles people look very, well, you're just carving out another piece of meat. And they don't understand that the intelligence that occupies the body is an immortal being. It has existed from eternity, it shall exist to eternity. And the little child that is aborted, the spirit is already there laying claim to that little baby's body. It is immortal also, and will have trauma placed upon it, which will create a hardship because of the lack of understanding of the spirit involved in that sort of thing. So these are things I want you all to consider carefully. If you're looking at things from an esoteric point of view, you might say, well, where is the karma involved? Okay? Where is the karma involved? Karma means the effect in this life of things that have occurred in past lives. Where you have what you call what you have reaped, or what you have sowed, you are now reaping. Now, there may be situations in that situation, but bottom line, I think, we need to look at is that we have found through body electronics the immortality of the soul is very, very real. The memory of past lives comes into play here, and that becomes very, very real. The recognition that people have in this life of different people, and they see somebody on the street, oh, I know you from somewhere. Where have you been all my life? And they will then recognize that there has been some sort of a past interconnection and an interfacing between those people other times and other places. And you recognize this when you meet people. There's a certain kinship of old fellowship that has taken place in past existences. Then on the other hand, you have people that you meet where you have an immediate, you come to loggerheads with that person and the sparks fly because the personality just clash like fire. You can rest well assured you've had experiences with that person sometime in the past. Anyway, this concept does happen. Now, when you've had near-death experiences or operations where you're unconscious, or where you have had situations of heavy drug use or even alcoholism where you drink yourselves unconscious, oftentimes you'll have entity involvement with these things, and when the holes in the auric field are closed, these entities have to leave. We'll talk about that more when we get to the 4th week of body electronics. But I want you to be aware of that. This can happen just on a nutritional program that you're getting into. Because a nutritional program by itself will create holes in the auric field. Or not create them, will create their closure so that any entities left in the body will go. Now these are things that we need to be aware of, and then we become tremendously protective and appreciative of the life of the body that is here on this earth at this time as a vehicle for experience for the spirit which is immortal in its nature. I'm not going to ask you how many of you believe in reincarnation or how many of you don't. The thing is that we have a book here which we have been known about for a long, long time. And the lady that used to put this book out in the States, she only put out a limited number, and we had access to some of them and distributed them among the people that were involved in body electronics. This is called the 2nd book of Acts. The 2nd book of Acts are the teachings of the Blessed Mother Mary to the apostles at her age of 83 in Jerusalem, when all of the apostles who, according to this little book, when they're hoary with age, meaning they're gray hair and gray beards and kind of hard to get along, you know, they're getting up in age, they all were recalled to Jerusalem. And Luke, who wrote the 3rd epistle, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John in the New Testament, Luke wrote this text as an old man also. And this was, the original manuscript was found among the personal belongings of Origen, who was one of the early church fathers. And this was translated by a Dr. Guthrie into English, and then right now we have the publication rights to it. And we had this printed and put out, because this is the teachings of the mysteries of the kingdom to the apostles. The apostles were not taught reincarnation at the time of the crucifixion and so on. They didn't understand that. That was not taught to them. That was not taught to them till many years later, and this was called the mysteries of the kingdom and was taught to them by Mother Mary shortly before her transition. Jesus came and appeared before all of the people there, including Mother Mary, and confirmed this teaching of reincarnation to all of the apostles. And that record is in this particular book. Now we have a few books back here. If you want this one, this will be available to you. Talk to Hank or talk to Victoria. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Just recapping back to that.
Mike? Yeah.
Sorry, just recapping back to that story that you were telling regarding the woman who was kicked by the gentleman and the fetus died.
Yes.
To what extent does, say, the father in that sense have responsibility to that life as well? Is he affected in any way, or does the woman totally take the whole, for want of a better word, the karma in that situation?
I'm not going to judge. And I don't think it's anybody else's position in mortality to judge.
I'm not asking.
I'm just saying, just listen for a moment, please. If the thing is, what happened, what happened? Was he responsible, or was the violent home life in which he was born and raised, were his parents responsible for allowing him to be born in a situation of violence? Who was responsible all the way down the line? Was it the sins of the parents resting upon the children down to the third and fourth generation? Who was responsible? Was it the grandparents, the great-grandparents? And oftentimes we take a look at who we are. We are genetically what our parents were. And if we were mistreated as a child, we will have a tendency to mistreat our children. And then those children will have a tendency to mistreat their children. And this is common knowledge among a lot of your violence that does take place in the homes. It's carried down from generation to generation to generation. You can read about it, and this is many of the counselors are fully aware of this. Child brutality beginning here continues on with the next generation, continues on with the next generation. And so this violence, well, who's to blame for the reactive mechanism? Is it a genetic reactive mechanism?
Maybe I rephrased the question wrongly. I should have said effect.
You should have said?
Effect.
Say it again.
Effect.
Effect.
Yeah. Now instead of saying responsibility, I should. How does that affect both parties?
How does that affect both parties? Possibly adversely.
Yes.
And we have to make a correction. So somewhere along the line, and we'll talk about this tomorrow in great detail relative to the concept of resistance. Somewhere along the line we have to eventually reach a point where we lovingly and willingly endure all things ourselves and unconditionally forgive other people for being delightful deviations from the norm, and unconditionally loving other people for being exactly who they are. Now, we can't change other people in their lives, but we can change our attitudes toward those people. And as long as we have, somebody has to turn the key first and say, I am going to be unconditionally loving and I'm going to be unconditionally forgiving. Now, if there are enough of us turn that key, then other people will literally wilt in the presence of love and forgiveness. But if we look upon them with resistance and criticism and judgment, they're going to harden themselves up and persist in their insanity, if I can use that word, which comes from a lack of love, comes from a lack of understanding, comes from a lack of forgiveness, and comes from a continuation of resistance. And so somebody has to turn the key first and take the first position of working lovingly and forgiving. And you say, okay, well, how about, how do you handle that sort of a thing? You handle it by becoming unconditionally loving and unconditionally forgiving, period. And they do what they do and we do what we do. And you can't do anything better than that. Greg, you want to talk to us about that? Come up here, sir.
Just a question on what telegeny means with the daughter that was aborted. Would she still have the energy of the father from the abortion as well as the new father in the conception?
The answer to that, Greg, would be yes. Because the girl that was aborted at the time of conception took on the energies of both the mother and the father. That was recorded on their soul level of that person. That is immortal. And then when she was aborted with her determination to be of disservice to her mother, she brought all these energies with her into the next existence. Because that energy pattern which exists at the time of death is sealed upon us in the next existence. There's no way to escape from that. Because and everything is just, we all have equal opportunity, everything balances up after a while, because all of the resistances that we have carried with us from last life into this life creates our heaven here or creates our hell. Now, one thing that you may not agree with at all, this is our hell. We're living today our hell. There is only the ever-present now, and there will never be anything but the ever-present now. And we live from moment to moment to moment to moment to moment, and there's always the now. And that's all there ever will be. That's all there ever was. And so what we do with now creates our heaven for the future, which is now. And what we do in our resistant mode by our anger and frustration and hatred creates the hell, which will continue to exist in the ever-present now. There's no pie in the sky by and by. It's all here. When we die in the now. And then there'll be our relatives and ancestors will come and try to perk us up and send us on our way into a new existence. But to do so, we're still living in the now. Now, this is very, very hard for people to take. But if you read the scriptures, the Bible, very, very carefully, it says, now is the time to prepare to meet God. Now. And it talks about all of these things pertaining to the nowness and how we have to learn to cope with the nowness. And that's what it is. And so back to this other matter, at the time a person dies, that energy pattern that they have will draw unto themselves the body that's most suitable for their next existence. And that continues on until they can learn their lessons, all of them. And all of us are on the pathway one way or the other. Every one of us. Some of us drag our feet a little bit. I'm guilty. But we drag our feet and we kind of bump along, you know, with little resistances here and there until we can eventually overcome them. I think that's part of the game of life now. But if we can look at every moment of today, if we can fill that with unconditional love and unconditional forgiveness, and see every human being as our brother and our sister rather than an adversary, they might be a very delightful deviation from the norm as our brothers and our sisters, but still they're real. Now, I'm going to get very personal here. Tony, talk frankly with me. You're a member of the Maori culture, is that correct?
That's correct.
Do you understand the concept of the nearness of your ancestral dead?
Yes.
They're real. One of the chiefs of ours at Rarotonga would go up to his marae and sit there on the marae on one of the rocks and wait for his ancestral dead to come and talk to him. His father, his grandfather, his great-grandfather, they'd all sit in council as to how to handle the situation with this young maverick over here that hasn't learned his lesson yet. And so those who have passed on oftentimes stick around and look over their children or their grandchildren or their clan until they're no longer needed before they're recycled again. Now, to the Polynesian people, this is the most natural thing in the world, is a recognition of eternal life. Am I wrong on that, Tony? How would you say it differently than I have?
No, I don't think I'd say it any differently. I think what you said is the way our culture see it. Our culture has its spiritual boundaries, and one of those spiritual boundaries is in the concept of being able to relate to those who passed on, who we call the man of wisdom, the man who taught us or taught our parents, and so it's all handed down. It's a word-of-mouth situation. And even after death, there is this communication which lingers on.
And that is the choice and free agency of the soul. And that's where we are. Now, these things are very, very real that we're discussing here. Some cultures have a greater understanding of that because it hasn't been beaten out of them by the Western culture, which has created the almighty dollar as their god, or the race after the mad race for wealth and pleasure. People have taken a position now we need to take a look at how we can return back to a recognition as to who we are. Where have we come from? Where are we going? Now, there are many other cultures. Many of the Oriental cultures have a firm recognition of their ancestral dead, and they call it ancestor worship. Well, it's not really ancestor worship. It's a recognition of honoring the ancestral dead. But a lot of people who don't understand that will take offense to it. You have the people who fully understand that in India and among the Buddhists and among the Hindu. They fully endorse the concept of life after life. So, yes, sir.
Where does Jesus come into this? Where does the Christ come into this? A Christian would say, worship God, worship Christ, or go to God through Jesus. How does it fit in?
Okay, that is a very, very good question, sir.
Could you repeat it, please?
Now, would you like to repeat that question, and we'll repeat that for the mic. The question, as I understood it, as the Christians believe in "Let no other God be before me," that Jesus Christ is the God that we are supposed to look toward. Is that correct?
Worshipping God through Jesus.
Worshiping God through Jesus. Okay. The Buddhists would understand that from the enlightenment of the Buddha and his teachings, which are exactly the same when you study it. I've studied it. Is exactly the same as the teachings of Jesus. The Hindu teachings, if you go back far enough in the Hindu teachings, there is no difference. And you have Krishna. And you have the same teachings that Krishna gave are the same as Buddha, are the same as Jesus. You have Muhammad, and you have the enlightenment of Muhammad during his day. Not what the Muslim fundamentalists do today, but the original teachings of Muhammad, there was no difference. But after a few hundred years, you have corruption like anything else, and you get away from the original teachings. Now, you have the teachings of Zoroaster. You have the teachings of other great masters that have lived during our time. And they have lived during our time. And they have gained the ascendancy that Jesus openly had during his day. Now, all of these great masters and great teachers, they all taught the same thing. And so one culture will be born and will be raised a Buddhist. Another culture will be born and raised a Hindu. Another one will be born and raised a Mohammedan. The time has come, my friends, when we must put away the divisions and bring all of the teachings of all of the great masters into one unity. Now, one of my kahuna teachers in the Polynesian islands in Hawaii, he told me many beautiful stories about during his teachings. And at his graduation as a kahuna, his two kahuna teachers sat on a grass mat after a great big meal where everybody laughed and scratched and danced and sang. And after the meal was over, they said, "Our job is done. You are now the kahuna, and we will leave now." And they kissed all their families, their extended families, goodbye, and sat on the grass mat and disappeared. And I said, I asked my teacher, I said, "Have you ever seen your teachers after that?" He said, "Yes, only when I needed them, but I need them no more." Now, here are people that had power over leaving this life and coming back to it, leaving this life and coming back to it. This is well accepted among the Polynesian teachings. I'm one of the few white men that's ever taken in and allowed to be taught the kahuna doctrines. Now, these are things that are very real to the people who have experienced it. And many, many stories, the people who are contracted in their thinking would say this is nothing but pure witchcraft. Fair enough? Pardon me? And a fundamentalist Christian cannot handle body electronics because they've already prejudged it completely.
I've met fundamentalist Christians who are dying of cancer. They don't know how to heal themselves. the other part is they don't want to heal themselves. They just want to go to be with God.
That's right. But they don't realize that when they die, the attitudes and thinking will seal upon them what they will be in the next life. But they won't remember it. This is the fun part of the whole thing. Everything is just, and everything is honorable, and everything is perfect divine order, and there are no mistakes. Everything that we have that happened to us, Dave, everything is designed for our knowledge and for our progression and for our learning if we allow it to be. And we'll have our choice to turn against it and say, bunch of nonsense, forget it. Or we'll have the choice to choose that teaching and make that our own and profit from it.
So, okay, the final...
Now, I'm not putting down the fundamentalist Christian.
No.
I've had a go at all of them. They've had a go at me, and we're all friends.
Okay, so is there a God, and is that God a personality? Or is that God...
Let me ask you a question, sir.
Yeah,
Do you have a personality?
I sure do.
You are a God in embryo. You haven't realized yourself yet.
Well, but is there a God? A creator God?
What does God mean?
The highest...
Do you have a family?
The highest authority in the universe?
Yes. Do you have a family?
No.
Okay. Do you have a body?
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware that every cell of your body has intelligence?
Yes.
Good. Then you are a God to the cells of your body. And how you live your life, those intelligences in every single cell of your body, governing the billions of them that are there, you are God to them, but you haven't realized that yet. Now, when you realize that you are God to billions and billions of intelligences that are on the road to eventual perfection, you'll be very careful as to what you say, what you think, and what you do in this lifetime, and how you treat your body and treat the other people around you. Because when you look at people's eyes, what I see the God in you. You see the God in me. Together, we are one family. But the difference that many of the self-realized people is they realize that they are a God on the road to progression. Many, many people out there, hundreds of thousands of people out there, do not understand that they are really a God in embryo that haven't realized who they really are yet. Christ understood that he was a God, and he manifested that. You have other people throughout time that are learning that same thing. One man by the name of Saint Germain, he said to his teacher, he says, when will I reach the state of the ascension? He said, you did it about 15 years ago. And this is where in the book of Revelation it says, you shall be changed in a twinkling of an eye and go from mortality into immortality. Now this is the possibility that exists for all of us, if we but follow the teachings as they are given to us. Teachings of unconditional love. Teachings of eternal gratitude for every experience of life. Learning the unconditional forgiveness for every single blip and blop that people do along the pathway of life that upset us or concern us in some way. I appreciate your question, David. Very timely. Other questions as we go along here? You want to know what body electronics is? All we're doing is pointing the way to all of the teachings of all the great masters of all time and trying to bring them into a oneness. We have a question from this gentleman right here.
I just wrote down, therefore, ascended masters, martial arts, spiritual masters who have this ancient and esoteric wisdom were enlightened to what you were discussing before, the morphogenetic changes.
They were what?
They were enlightened to morphogenetic changes.
Yes.
We were discussing earlier. And that's how it all intertwines.
Basically, all of the great masters, the masters of the martial arts, understood the arts of not only war, but the arts of peace. They were able to take the duality of life and bring that into a oneness. And these same great men who had this ability of incorporating both the arts of war and the arts of peace were able then to gain mastery over the three energies: the energy of the mental body, the energies of the emotional body, and the energies of the physical body. And when they mastered all three of those energies, they then move into a higher level of activity. Fair enough, sir? Okay. Now that's the way it is. But we have to kind of laugh and joke about things. Some people think I'm totally off the beat because I find I can laugh at just about anything, including myself. We're all divine deviations from the norm. Can't we do that? And just realize that we're delightfully human. Now, once we can accept ourselves as human, we're letting go of the resistance. Now, we talked the other night in one of our meetings, and we got into some esoteric type thinking. Let me give you some good ones. If you injure your arm, and you cut yourself across your arm here, and you have a huge amount of scar tissue, when you are capable of going back and re-experiencing on the mental level the injury to your arm, at that very moment when you take it with non-resistance and just re-experience it, you'll feel the burning in that arm through that scar tissue. And when you let go of that with non-resistance, the scar tissue will disappear and the full memory will reoccur to your mind that you can then release because you no longer resist it. That which you resist in life, that which you resist, you hold in a continual state of creativity. And when we're able to let go of that resistance and let it flow, so to speak, it goes right back into the void because we're no longer creating it. Everything goes back to how it was before we got diseased or before how we got sick, and the body returns to normal. I was asked to be one of the keynote speakers up in Canada at the Canadian Health Federation meeting up in Toronto. And I sat next to another speaker who was on the program, who was a psychiatrist from Montreal. And she was a cancer therapist. And I asked her, well, what do you do in the treatment of your patients? She says, I only do one thing. I said, what is that? She says, I have found through many years of experience that people are not being true to themselves. They're not doing what they want to do in life. They're letting other people control and direct and dictate their very existence. And so many things that they want to do, they have never done and never will until they can get the guts to go ahead and do what they want to do with life. Well, how do you treat your patients? She says, I'm telling you. She says, I find out what they really want to do, and when we have that all nailed down, what they really want to do with their life, then I tell them to do it. And she says, in a very high percentage of her patients, the cancer goes into remission when they decide that they are going to be happy doing what they want to do, and the cancer heals. Why? Because there's no resistance left to keep it there. Now you have other things that enter in, like maybe chemical poisoning, which can cause this, or genetic conditions which can bring these things about. Fair enough. But on the whole, the mental attitude of a person has a great deal to do with their healing. Now, I'm saying these things as they come to my mind because I want you to be thinking now, so-and-so should be doing this and so-and-so over here should be doing this. Get away from that. My question would be, if you had your choice in life, what would you really want to do with your life? And then if I was cheeky enough, I'd say, now do it. And that's what I'd probably say. It may not be the most socially acceptable or politically proper thing to do, but at least you'll be out doing what you want to do. And at that point of time, you'll have nothing but a smile on your face and a glee for life, and you'll say, how wonderful it is to be alive. I want you just to think about that, because most of us have gone through our life doing what the principal wants us to do, doing what the minister wants us to do, doing what we're told to do by grandma, doing what we're told to do by mother and father, and we have never found out yet who we are to do the things that we want to do with our life. Now, this is what this psychiatrist in Quebec, she dealt with nothing but cancer patients. And she said, find out what the person wants to do, and then find a way to get them to do it. Now, and they say, well, I can't do it because of my daughter. My daughter needs me. Or I can't do this because my father needs me. Or I can't do this because. Get rid of all the becauses and say, live your life according to the dictates of your own conscience. Because you'll always have a flock of people saying, you can't do this, you're forsaking your responsibility, you're being unstable because you should have a job and stay with that job the rest of your life, and you should never move out of that house. That was your grandmother's house. You should never move out of that house. You must remain forever in that position, and we buy it. Don't we? We buy it. We buy what our parents say. We buy what our children say. We buy what our spouse or spouse says, our mates or our mismates, you know. We buy these things. And it becomes part and parcel of our being. Now, when are we going to just simply be ourselves, put a smile on our face and say, I really want to go down there and look at those porpoises? Or, I really want to go down there and see that aquarium. I've lived in the city all my life, and I've never seen the aquarium. Or, you know, I really want to go up to the Blue Mountains. And I want to go up to Threadbow, and I just want to sit there and watch the skiing. Why not? Why not? And the moment we start dreaming again, we live, because we have a dream. We have a desire to live within the realms of constructive activity, within the realms of common sense, within the realms of a certain degree of responsibility for life, including ourselves. Do we have the right to take this beautiful body of ours with these billions of little intelligences to which we are God? Do we have the right to take them out on a spin somewhere and say, let's go out and see the countryside? You bet we do. Do we have the right to go out and smell that new daffodil farm? Of course we do. And this is when we're being completely true to our heart. What did you want to say, dear?
Oh, you're a hard act to follow.
Just act like that.
Just act like that.
Assume the virtue if you have it not.
I think you've said it on this matter. There's nothing more to say. I mean, it's...
Thank you. Hank?
Nothing to add.
Want to slap my hands for being real? No. Okay. All right. Anita, you're on.
Okay, now we're off of pawpaws. We're...
And mamas.
And mamas. Okay, T, coordinate with a holistic medical doctor on all medications while the physical body regenerates. Now this is important because there are some medications that you cannot come off of just like that. And if you have a client that is on medications, you've got to work with them slowly to gradually take them off the medication as they build themselves up on the program. You don't just take them off. Now there may be some drugs which are actually causing problems that the person is trying to heal. So it's good to get yourself one of these pill books. In the States they call it a pill book. I don't know what they call it here.
Pill
but
book.
It's a book that lists all the drugs. It's called a pill book? Yeah. It lists all the drugs and it lists all the side effects. So, if your doctor wants to give you a drug, you can right away go home and look it up, see the side effects, or if you're having a client come down, check it out. Check out the side effects. I told a story at the free lecture where we had this young boy come to us where he was having epileptic fits, and and we got him on the program. He asked us if we could help him with body electronics, and we said, sure, yes. We got him on the program, and he had his whole family. He was a Maori boy. He had his whole family coming, about 20 people, aunties and uncles, and relatives came to hold points on him, and he was eating pretty well, and he was taking the supplements, and we just couldn't get any response. I mean, and I just was looking at it, and I said, there's something wrong here. There's something wrong here. I know this program works. Why aren't we getting any response? So finally, I said to John, John, is this boy on any medication? And so John called the family up and asked the mother, and the mother said, oh, yes, we forgot to tell you, he's taking 2 or 3 drugs. So I immediately looked up the side effects, and the side effects of the drugs were epileptic fits. We took the boy off of those drugs, and immediately the epileptic fits stopped. And he wasn't monitoring it with the doctor, and apparently the doctor had given him too high a dose of the medication, and he was having the epileptic fits, and it never dawned on him that that could be doing it, but that was it, because immediately when he went off, he got better. So the pill book would be very useful. Anything more you want to say on that?
I just got 2 things coming to my mind that I should talk about.
Okay.
David, you had a question in your mind, sir.
I did.
Yes, you did? You expressed it to me. And you said that some of the people that you're working with are very, very skeptical about the regeneration of tissue after a mastectomy.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. We want to answer your question right now. Greg, were you with me at Broad Beach?
Yes.
Yes, you were. Hank, you were with me at Broad Beach.
Yes.
Victoria, were you with me at Broad Beach? No. Anita, you were with me at Broad Beach. Okay. You better have been. Now, anyway, what had happened was this one lady who's a television personality in Brisbane. Now, we have this on a sheet of paper that was published to all the Broad Beach people and sent to them. You have a copy? Did you have a copy?
Yeah, I got a copy.
You have a copy?
I have a copy.
Okay.
I never get one.
You never get one.
Oh, you know that.
I didn't know that. I'll get one for you. You keep nagging me. Now, on that copy was one lady who was telling the experience of a breast cancer where she had a partial breast removal with scar tissue across the top. That was keloid. You with me, Dave? Okay, now listen very carefully. With certain prioritized points, which we'll talk about in body electronics. I want to bring it up now for whatever reason I don't know. But I'm going to bring it up now so you can mull it over. We held certain points on her a certain prescribed way that you will all learn. Okay, 4th week from now. You will learn these points. And she was able to get burning all the way through the area where she had the removal of the tissue. The majority of the scar disappeared, and this lump, that lumpectomy or whatever they had, half of it, maybe 3/4 of it, filled in. She had feeling back where the numbness was. meaning that the nerve supply was there. Are you with me? Okay. Now, Anita and I went up to Nambour, and we were up at Nambour, and we gave quite a large lecture to a lot of people there up on the Sunshine Coast. Many of them I didn't know. But this one lady who had been at Broad Beach came up and told us that now the rest of that lumpectomy all filled in, and the scar that was there was completely gone. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And she said, I'll take it down and show it to you if you want to see it, you know. But the thing was, is she was just over the moon. Because she had followed the rules correctly, okay, and she got the results that were forthcoming. Now, Hank will know, and Victoria will know, that in the instructor seminar, which we had about 8 weeks up at the the tablelands of above Cairns, the Atherton tablelands, and up in there, we had a number of people, probably 12 to 14 out of the 70 or 80 that were there, that were making no progress to my expectations. In other words, they weren't getting the regeneration where they were having the burning, searing pain of regeneration as the suppressed traumas were being totally re-experienced on the mental level. Okay? Some people were missing protein. And as soon as they started taking enough protein, they started getting results.
That's right.
Some people were missing the essential fatty acids. And as soon as they start taking the essential fatty acids, they started getting results. Some people were missing B-complex. And when they started taking the B-complex in the amounts that we recommended, they started getting results. Some people didn't like the minerals, and so they weren't taking the minerals. The minerals they have to get results. When they started taking the minerals, everything started going for them. The same thing with certain enzymes. Other people try to shortcut their enzymes and eat nothing but fresh and raw food. And I explained to them, no. You are not correcting long-standing enzyme deficiencies that are necessary for regeneration. They started taking their enzymes, and things started to work for them, and we started getting results. Now, I think those were the basic areas where people were missing out on. Niacin was another thing, which is, again, is a B vitamin, which causes a vasodilation to get the nutrients to the cell level. And so niacin, we'll talk about this later on, but I'm trying to prepare you for an understanding that you can't miss one of these items that we have worked out the hard way over many, many years of finding out when a person is not making progress, what nutritionally are they missing? Because all of the nutritional factors have to be there synergistically, if I can use that expression. They all work together collectively to get the results we're looking for. It's like they're all a tumbler in a lock, and we have to get that tumbler open. And if one tumbler is missing, we don't get that lock open. Fair enough? When all the tumblers are in line, the lock opens. This is what we're looking for. Dave, did I help you on that particular problem?
Yes, it's not necessarily me that's skeptical.
I know that, but you can be skeptical too. Allow yourself that privilege until you see it with your own eyes. Don't believe a thing I see until you experience it. Then you can say, I know. Fair enough? That's the way it is. That's only fair. That's the way I operate, and I ask a lot of questions. I get a lot of people upset with me because I don't believe anything until I see it. But that's the way I am. Fair enough? If somebody's that way with me, fair enough. But if they follow in what we have done over the years through trial and error, they will get the same results that the rest of us are getting. Now, what should I have said that I didn't say, Hank?
Well,
Anita?
yeah.
Just throw away my question.
Pardon me?
Just throw away my question.
Yeah, we didn't really go through all the essential ingredients that you need.
Not yet.
You do need these basic things for the nutrient saturation program. You do need the minerals, okay? You do need the enzymes, minerals, enzymes. You do need the essential fatty acids that we talked about with the flax oil, okay? You do need the amino acids, which you get in the grain fields and the bee pollen, things like that. You do need oxygen, which we didn't get into yet.
Oxygen was another item.
Oxygen was another item. If they weren't getting enough oxygen, we didn't get results.
If you don't get oxygen to the cells, nothing happens. You got to get oxygen to the cells, and then everything happens.
Right.
Do you use peroxide?
We use, in answer to the question, do we use peroxide? The answer is yes. The peroxide that we use is not the 35%, but we bring it down to a 3% solution of hydrogen peroxide. And then we work gradually up to 3 times a day, from 18 to 20 drops 3 times a day, to get the oxygen into the system. And then it will have the results that the experts on hydrogen peroxide say that they get, and the thing will work. Now that's your hydrogen peroxide. That is probably the cheapest form of oxygen you can get. There are other forms of oxygen which are equally as valid. In New Zealand, we use the Genesis 1000. Here in Australia, we use Sully's, don't we? What?
Neclo.
Macro? Okay, and that is another form. If you have a question on that, talk to Hank. Hank will get you all informed as to what is available here in Australia, because we don't want to violate in any way the Therapeutic Goods Act that exists here. I don't want anybody in trouble by selling something that is not valid according to Australian law. Is that fair enough? You can work yourself around that. You can work yourself around that and get from the pharmacy the things that you need. Yes, sir?
It's 35% food-grade hydrogen peroxide.
That's right.
You didn't mention the food grade, that's all.
Yes, it
Thank
has
you.
to be food grade.
It has to be food grade.
Definitely, food grade.
Yeah,
Yes.
there are others that have chemicals in it which make it invalid for use. Thank you, Greg. You correct me anytime you can.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Okay, the other thing you need is the vitamins. You have to have all the vitamins there, which we recommend the B vitamins, and then the vitamin C you get from the fruit. We'll be going through vitamin A. We recommend carrot juice for that.
Organically grown.
Organically grown carrots, of course. You don't want to get all those toxins in your body. So carrots for vitamin A. Vitamin E, we sometimes recommend for people with heart problems. You can get that like from avocado, or there's Nature Sunshine puts out a vitamin E. I don't know if it's illegal here or not.
Sunflower kernels.
Hmm?
Sunflower kernels?
Yeah,
Soaked sunflower kernels, Hank is telling me, has a lot of vitamin E in it. In the sunflower kernels? Okay. Greg is telling me omega-6 in the sunflower kernels. Okay, so that's the vitamins. But by eating the tremendous amount of fresh and raw, you'll be getting the rest of your vitamins also. The other thing that you need is the good bacteria in the gut. And that about covers it, or the Schweitzer for the immune system.
Okay, there's some research that I'm going to have my hands on within a week or two. And on this research, it's on aflatoxins found throughout all of your shelled nuts, which has a great deal of a harmful effect on the colon, on the digestion, and especially on the liver. Now, almonds that we relish, you know, how many like to grab a handful of almonds and chomp away? It's absolutely wonderful. If they're shelled, it's going to, if they're shelled, they're going to start to have a certain moldy substance form, which are what they call aflatoxins. Now here's where we have to be careful. Brazil nuts, cashew nuts, peanuts, all of these have the aflatoxins according to tests that have been run over and over again. Now I passed spelling in the first grade. aflatoxins. Aflatoxins. Is that correct, sir?
Hank's going to write it on the board for you.
Aflatoxins. Okay? Now on this aflatoxins, these things are very harmful to the body. And so for people who are taking the nuts and then soaking the nuts, that doesn't get rid of the mold or the aflatoxins that are extremely harmful to the body. And so that's one thing that we have recommended in the past, to destroy the enzyme inhibitors that are in the nuts and bring it to a point of germination. But that's not the case anymore. We got a problem with the aflatoxins, big one, big time. And so consequently, we cannot recommend shelled nuts. If you're going to eat nuts, get them unshelled, make sure that they're fresh, and then eat them accordingly.
Soaked.
Soaked. After you crack them, soak them good.
Soak them to germinate them so all the enzyme inhibitors are gone, because if you eat the nuts before soaking, they contain an enzyme inhibitor. The reason for this is that nature has put this in the nut so that it contains the information to grow a tree or whatever the seed is, or a plant. And when the seed or nut is put into the soil and it's given water and light, that nut then breaks down to grow the tree or the plant. And all those enzyme inhibitors are broken down. So by soaking them, you break these down. Yes.
How long do you soak them for?
24 hours.
Okay, continue on down here.
Okay, the next one, we have, do not use aluminum cookware. Replace aluminum cookware with stainless steel or porcelain. This is extremely important. The aluminum is now connected with Alzheimer's disease. So check your cookware. Now these low-grade stainless steel pots, I've also been told that some of them contain high portions of lead, the very cheap ones. So get a good grade stainless steel pot or glassware or porcelain. Aluminium also you can find in deodorants. Roll-on deodorants, spray deodorants, the deodorants from the supermarket. So get yourself a herbal deodorant from the health food store. Okay, next. Any questions on the pots? No. Oh, one more thing I wanted to say. The kettles. Be careful with some of the kettles, too, because the elements can have a problem within the element itself. It can have some toxic chemicals. The better thing to get is a kettle that does, the kind of kettle that you can pull off the heating element. The bottom is stainless steel. It's a solid stainless steel bottom, and then you put the kettle on top of the heating element instead of having the heating element in the water. At this point, too, I want to just talk a little bit about plastics. A lot of people use a lot of plastics to put food in. There's research now showing that the plastics act like estrogens. They call them xenoestrogens. And these estrogens then disrupt the hormone balance within the body. A lot of women use Tupperware to store their food in. They use a lot of plastic wraps around the food, plastic bags, all these things. You should not store your food with a lot of plastics. Use glass. In fact, at home, our vegetables, I don't even put them in the refrigerator. I just I buy them fresh and I just leave them out. I put like...
Where it's cool.
Yeah, where it's cool. We keep them, we just keep the vegetables out. We don't put them in the refrigerator. And like parsley and things like that, I put it in water on the counter. So I don't put it in plastic. So be careful, because if you have a lot of these plastics around, plastic cups, I know, we're drinking from right now, they get into the substances that you're into the foods and then mimic these estrogens. And then we wind up with problems from the higher estrogen counts. Women find that they get loss of calcium from too high of an estrogen count. Men, their sperm count goes down because of infertility. There's infertility problems with higher estrogen counts.
Are you aware that in the United Kingdom over 50% of the men are sterile? Over 50% of the men are now sterile because of things of this that Anita's talking about.
Yeah. Now the pesticides and the plastics do this. They mimic these estrogens, and they're called xenoestrogens.
I had a program on that, it was on TV last year. They did a study in Denmark, and it was quite revealing what they discovered, because these people, these men are absolutely desperate because they're, they just cannot produce any sperm whatsoever. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, next we have V. Have all silver amalgam, mercury, fillings removed and replaced with non-toxic composite. Now this is a very big subject. John's going to take off.
About 14 years ago, when I was 50 years of age, I had terminal osteoblastic metastatic bone cancer. I was given 6 weeks to live, maximum. I was in so much pain that I wished for the coffin. That's how much pain I was in. But because of my nature, I didn't want to get on any bad painkillers because I knew that I'd never get off of them. I had a lady that was born exactly the same time I was, in the same year, and the same date, who was a psychiatric nurse. She was a little larger than I was. And she says, "I'm not going to let you die." And bottom line, she began to hold my points, very much against my will at that time. And she took each one of my ribs and went along each rib where all the chalky deposits were, and they burned all the way around from the back to up here to my sternum, one rib at a time. After a while, every single bone burned like fire where the cancer was, the bone cancer. And after a while, the pain began to stop. Within 2 months, there was absolutely no sign of any bone cancer. And I'm alive today. Thank you. Somebody's been watching after me. Now, part of this was I had to get the mercury out of my teeth. I became aware of the silver amalgam mercury. You will find in the blue book, for which I do hope you all get a copy of this. How many of you have a copy now, the blue book here? Patient's Guide to Body Electronics. Most of you have it. Good. Now, in the front of the book, we have here 12 points on mercury toxicity. This gets into all of the details scientifically proved as to how damaging mercury is to the body. Listen carefully. Years ago, when I was in the United States, I had a $10,000 piece of equipment coming out of the Jerome Mercury Vapor Analyzer Company in Prescott, Arizona. Every satellite, what do they call that? Not satellite, but the when they're going off into space, rockets. Pardon? The shuttle. They have this Jerome Mercury Vapor Analyzer to determine how much mercury there is in the atmosphere that they're working in, because if there's too much mercury, that becomes very damaging to the health. We had, according to OSHA, which is a governmental organization, if there's a certain level of mercury that we inhale, we're in the danger zone for health, and we should look at that very carefully. Every submarine has one of these mercury vapor analyzers in it. I had one in my office. I tested over 400 people, myself being one of them. I personally had rows and rows of mercury amalgam, because back during the Second World War time, what they did is they just dug a trench, and to prevent mercury, to prevent the teeth from decaying, and just dug a big trench, poured the mercury in there, and that was it. And we all had that. Now, that was a few years back, but what happened during that time is after I got this Jerome mercury vapor analyzer, in 30 seconds of chewing on a little piece of gum and then measuring with a little tube, bringing the air out of the oral cavity and measuring it on this gold-plated device here, which was the mercury vapor analyzer. We had to calibrate it every day to make sure it's just right on the button. I had more mercury exposure to elemental mercury than was allowable. That was in 10 seconds now. In 10 seconds, I had more mercury than was allowable in a 40-hour work week coming out of my teeth. I found I had the highest of anybody that I knew. I wasn't happy about that either. Everyone else had just about the same, very high readings, who were quite ill. I started studying into mercury toxicity very, very intently. I found out that elemental mercury works around the gum line on the teeth with all the microbe activity that works in here, down in the lungs and down through the intestinal tract, and these little microbes convert the mercury into a methyl mercury, which is 100 times more toxic, and which goes through the blood-brain barrier, goes into the brain, and gives us terrible condition there, goes into the pituitary gland, and goes into the thyroid gland and affects their function. Since that time, I have books from Sweden that go into detail on that. And all these several books in Sweden show how it affects the heart, has specific effect upon the pituitary and thyroid, and then the brain, and then all kinds of immune system problems coming from the methyl mercury. And I tell you, since that time, I have encouraged everyone I know to get rid of the silver amalgam fillings, because everyone is going to have a count which will be higher than is allowable by the standards of the U.S. government for a 40-hour work week. Now, just take that down. I've done my testing on it. I don't have to test any more mercury. Everyone who has mercury or silver amalgam fillings in their teeth has 50% mercury. You're getting poisoned by mercury. There are certain signs we have found, which is from the homeopathic books in Boriki's book, Materia Medica, showing that you have certain definite signs if you have mercury poisoning. And you can go and take a look at that and look at the italicized print under just regular quicksilver or mercury. And you'll see exactly where the problems are. So I would recommend very highly to read the material that has been passed out to you by Hank about the mercury and the problems with mercury. Read it on your own time, and then make a concerted effort to find an enlightened dentist who is willing to take the silver amalgam fillings out without complaining, said there's nothing wrong. Mercury is not going to hurt you at all. You don't have to have that silver amalgam fillings out. Yet in California now, by law, you have to have in your office of a dentist that the silver amalgam fillings are hazardous to your health. By the year 2000, they want Austria to be a mercury-free country. You have the same thing with Denmark, you have the same thing up in Sweden and Norway, and you have other countries now realize that the mercury amalgam fillings in our teeth create very detrimental effects to our body. Now, Australia, I think, is starting to come around. And so we've done enough damage on those birds that I think they've finally been hammered at by several hundred different people going in to get their silver amalgam fillings out. That they're starting to get the understanding that the people of Australia and the people of New Zealand have more sense than they have. And so they're gradually going over from silver amalgam fillings over to composite. And it's just a matter of time before there'll be a mad rush to get it done, because people will understand how bad the silver amalgam fillings are.
Also, I would like to tell you to take a mirror with you when you go to have your fillings taken out, because I had the very bad experience of having them drill. The dentist that I went to, he didn't believe in it, and he drilled halfway, and he put the white on top. Several years later, I went to have an x-ray, and I spoke to a dentist. I went to a dentist that was totally into mercury removal, and he told me that I still had mercury in my mouth, and I just couldn't believe it. And he said, well, I'll drill through and show you. And he did. He drilled through the white, and underneath there was the mercury. So I would take a mirror with you, and after the dentist drills, look to see if all the mercury is out of the tooth before he fills it. Also, make sure he's got the rubber dam and the suction. A nurse should be there with that suction, pulling the particles of mercury away so you don't swallow any. You don't want to get mercury poisoning if you swallow the particles. So have the rubber dam, have the suction there. Make sure they have all this equipment. And the composite that you put in should be compatible with your body. So you should therefore check that out too, because certain composites may be incompatible for you. Now, Dr. Mike Godfrey, he's in New Zealand, in Tauranga. He has a machine that tests the composites. I don't know if there's anybody here that can do that. Is there, Hank? You don't know.
Dr. John, David Howard, does that in Crow's Nest. What he does.
Crow's Nest, David Howard?
He's a specialist.
Can you put it on? Can you put it on the tape for the rest of the people?
Is he definitely anti-mercury?
Oh yes, he's definitely anti-mercury. He specialises in removing amalgams because he's done mine, and he has there's another business next door that specialises in analysing and recommending what kind of materials that you are compatible to, because everyone's different.
Do they have a little machine that tests your...
Yes, they put you through a whole list, and they test you with all different kinds of materials.
Good.
And then he actually sends the questionnaire to the particular organisation. That's right, they're next to each other. They sort of like complementary situation, and they work together. And that's how it is. He picks the composite. If you have to have if you need a gold filling or whatever, he finds the particular alloy composite that's actually complementary to your body chemistry. And then he works it out from there, and then he keeps monitoring it from that point. But he uses the rubber dams and everything. David Howard?
Howard.
Yes.
David Howard.
He's in Crow's Nest, just next to the, St. Leonard's. Sorry, St. Leonard's Station, just near St. Leonard's Station. As a matter of fact, St. Leonard's. S-T.
ST, yeah.
Right. Leonards. Unfortunately, I don't have the address, but in actual fact,
What we'll do, we'll get that, and we'll pass out a list tomorrow.
I can bring it tomorrow, actually. I have
Can you
his.
bring his phone number
Yeah,
tomorrow?
yeah. No, I can bring a lot for you. Okay.
Tomorrow you will get a list of all the things we discussed, where to get the things, and we'll put the
Okay.
that on as well.
he's very good. He's totally set up for the whole thing.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Done.
Okay.
Fluoride.
Okay, now, any more questions on the mercury amalgam? Yes.
If you still have them, will they...
On the tape.
If you still have the amalgam in your teeth, in your mouth, will the nutritional program and the point holdings work?
The mercury destroys the immune response in the body. And until you're capable of getting that silver amalgam fillings out, even though the point holding will be effective, the mercury will keep dragging your body back down. You got to turn off the tap of the source of the toxicity, which is the mercury amalgam fillings.
And also the mercury affects the pituitary and the thyroid gland, and sometimes you could be holding the thyroid point until doomsday, and if you don't get the mercury out, the thyroid's not going to start functioning properly, and that's in the sequence and points. So if the thyroid's not working, then everything else after that's not going to be working. So I would definitely make it first priority to get your silver amalgams out. First priority. Yeah, we have had problems with cancer patients. If they don't get their silver amalgams out, we can't get good results with them. Yeah. Okay, next is replace fluoride toothpaste with a herbal toothpaste and take no toxic fluoride substances into the body. Well, that is very difficult here in Sydney, because even if you take a shower, unless you're on tank water, you're going to be taking fluoride in your body. So my suggestion is we all have to move. Which is, if you're serious about your health, I think that's the only answer. If you're serious about your health living in Sydney, there's no way that you're going to be rid of fluoride, because you're going to be exposed to fluoride in your drinks, in your coffees, in your teas, outside, in your soups. If you go to a restaurant, anywhere you go, you're going to take fluoride in your system.
As well as Gaudy and
Well, yes, that too. So check your toothpaste. Get a herbal toothpaste from the health food store. Make sure it doesn't have NutraSweet in it, because some of the herbal ones have NutraSweet now. And the
I saw that myself the other day.
Right, we were checking them out.
Yep.
We were checking the toothpastes. Now, the fluoride, now people ask what can they do about their water. The reverse osmosis we used to recommend takes the fluoride out. However, it also takes out all the good minerals from the water. So it's not the ultimate answer, the reverse osmosis. I believe that a naturally occurring water would be better if you can find one. Now we're using a spring water, and then we're energizing that spring water with the living water system. Now the living water system is from the work of Johann Gronder, who has found a way to make the water strong for the human body. We have tested all waters, tap water, spring water, reverse osmosis water, carbon filtered water. All waters weaken the body. We have tested them all. They all weaken the body. If you use the living water unit with any of those waters, they all strengthen the body. Now, the living water unit does not totally take the fluoride out of the water. What it does is it holds it in a suspension so that when you're drinking the water, it will not harm the body, and then it just passes out. If the level of fluoride is too high, it will not handle all that fluoride, and then some of the fluoride will be in the water, and you'll be taking that into your body. So you do need to have some kind of a system to take the fluoride out first, before you put it through the living water unit. But I would suggest getting maybe a spring water or a naturally occurring water before using the reverse osmosis unit. Any questions on that, on the water? Now you need a carbon filter for chlorine. Do you have chlorine in your water here too? Yes. So you need a carbon filter plus a reverse osmosis to get the chemicals out of the Sydney water. Yeah.
So
But
you're saying that if you had a carbon filter, reverse osmosis, right?
Right.
And then put it through the ground to your living
Living water.
living water,
Yeah.
it's fine. It strengthens it.
Yeah.
To a degree.
It strengthens it, but I don't recommend it.
Well, in some cases, you wouldn't have much of an alternative.
That's right. That's why I'm mentioning it, because you're not going to have much of an alternative. I'd rather see you do that than have fluoride water. But I don't think that's the best thing for the body.
If you take the water and run that through a
Reverse osmosis.
not reverse osmosis for you.
Distiller.
Distiller, a water distiller. That'll take out all the sediment and everything. It will not change the water as far as the energy in the water is concerned, like a homeopathic energy. But after it goes through the grander water unit, then that will change the energy of the water, definitely, so it'll be compatible to your body. We'll talk about water a little later on in greater detail.
But ultimately, if you want to be very healthy, I would suggest moving. I'm serious. Somewhere where you have pure water. Okay. Next is one of my favorite subjects. Do not use a microwave. Throw them out. Okay, letter boxes. Throw them out. There is research now, and John has done a lot of research on this, where the microwave foods become a non-food, causing cancer within the body.
Are you all hearing me? Say it again.
Yes. When you radiate the food through the microwave, okay, it then becomes a non-food. The molecular structure of the food is no longer the same. It becomes a non-food, causing cancer in the body. So if you're using that microwave to thaw things out, to defrost, to heat things up, heat your water, heat your little cup of coffee in, whatever, stop it. Start to do it the natural way again. If you're just pulling out a dinner and shoving it in the microwave when you come home from work, that is really taking your body down. Use the oven again. Go back to the old-fashioned way. Throw out the microwave. Do we have the microwave information?
Yeah, we just check here. I think it's in the back.
Okay, well Hank and Greg will hand it out if we have it. Any questions on the microwave?
Electrical people tell you that the frequency is so low that it can't affect food.
I beg your pardon?
Electrical people that fund like ice factories said the frequency of the microwave is so low that it doesn't affect food.
They don't know their head from a hole in the ground. And that's the way it is. They are selling something and they're sold a bill of goods and they never question it. Anybody that has taken and tested all the stuff around a microwave know that it'll affect a person several houses away from one existing microwave. And so these things are absolutely deadly. So when I say that these men who recommend a microwave and said there's no harm or danger, they don't know their head from a hole in the ground. They haven't tested it. They don't know what they're talking about. They're out of their element.
Yes, I wouldn't have it in the house because it could have a slow leak on it. So I would even take it out of the house, personally.
Micro means millions. So therefore it's high frequency. It goes to the wavelength.
Come up here, please. Come up here, please.
Okay.
Microwave refers to small wavelength. So therefore,
Everybody hear him.
so therefore,
Turn around, sir. Now speak very loud to the entire group of people here.
right. Micro means millions or millionth, and therefore refers to high frequency, refers to the wavelength. So that electrician was completely wrong.
Thank you.
In fact, research has been suppressed. First organisation take measures to suppress any research that's been done on it. It was on the internet, now it's not on the internet anymore.
Suppression is very real, sir.
Very real.
Vested interest has powerful control.
Okay, on the article you just received, the last paragraph on the first page, you have it right there. The measured effects of microwave irradiated food on man, as opposed to non-irradiated food, show changes in the blood of test persons indicative of an early pathogenic process similar to the actual start of cancer. Okay? And I'll let you read the rest of it on your own. But this is not a simple matter. I wouldn't take this lightly, the microwave. And also when you go out to eat, most things are done in the microwave, even in the health food stores. They, like lasagnas, anything that they can heat quickly. So what I do is I ask them, when they come to the table, the waiter comes to the table, I ask them, how do you cook in this restaurant? Do you use the microwave? And then that takes like half of the menu out right there. Because you know they're going to put all that in the microwave. Baked potatoes, lasagnas, some people put soups in, all kinds of things.
What Dave has said back there on the blackout of information, you have no idea as to the threats and coercion that are done covertly on people that put out information which goes against vested interest. Yeah, are you hearing me? Okay? I have been the victim of this type of treatment at one time in the past. And this was before the age of 40, and you know, they tell you they're going to bomb you out, they're going to do this and that if you continue to do such and so. Now, I know what they can do to you, and you don't know who the enemy is because they never reveal themselves. Just all of a sudden, you're smoked out, or something goes wrong with your car, or your gas line is pulled loose, so when you start the car, the gas is pumped out all over your engine. Now look, I've been there, and these are things that people will threaten your life and will do all they can to destroy you if you don't follow what they want you to do, because many, many people are into control. Now that's the way it is. And the point of it all is, as soon as people band together and work collectively for the common good of all, then they have no power over a united group of people. That's fair enough.
It does talk on the second to last page about the hertz from the microwave. It says here the spectrum from microwaves as defined by today's sciences reaches from about 10 to the 9th degree to 10 to the 11th degree hertz. Therefore, microwaves extend with its long waves far into the range of radio waves and with its short waves into the range of infrared red light. That means, therefore, that microwaves comprise the 4 wave ranges of radio, television, military shooting, and guidance systems, as well as microwave cooking. Okay, any other questions?
Next.
Okay. Next thing, protect yourself from electromagnetic smog with an 8 hertz generator. Now, the 8 hertz generator that we're talking about is the Tesla watch, which we recommend. Hank, can you get this watch anywhere in Australia?
The Tesla watch, did you say?
The Tesla watch, which has an 8 hertz chip in it.
What the Tesla watch does, it operates on the Schumann resonance. Now, the Schumann resonance is the energy that the National Aeronautics and Space Administration has measured emanating from the sun, about a 7.83 hertz, and will vary back and forth depending upon the distance from the sun. Now, this 7.83 hertz, which is resonating, or which is not resonating, but which is emanating from the sun, resonates in the earth at 7.83 hertz. The energy of love resonates at 7.83 hertz. Meditation will resonate at 7.83 hertz. The energy of healthy people are at 7.83 hertz. When you have a situation where you have disease or other blockages in the physical body, when you put a person into a 7.83 hertz field, the body will then lose these blockages which are resonating at other frequencies, and the body will then begin to heal. Now, Dr. Andrija Paharic, I don't know if you've ever heard of the man. He wrote a book on Uri Geller. Now, this Dr. Andrija Paharic was a very good friend of mine. We lectured together at New York State University, and we had a wonderful time talking about this 8 hertz generator that he was building at that time. Later on, I found out that around his home in North Carolina, where he had his laboratory, the jonquil plants changed their genetic structure for something like 50 meters out from his home. And so what this thing begins to do is it resonates out from his home, out around, and brings everything back up to a higher life form. Now, this become finally what they call the Tesla watch, which is manufactured by Elf Cocoon in the United States. Now, this Elf Cocoon company has places where you can get in New Zealand, I know, at Altered States, they call it. You got it. Altered States, and get a hold of Barry Boyes, B-O-Y-E-S, at 4 Grundry Street. That's G-R-U-N-D-R-Y Street in Auckland. The phone number is 09-309-6275. And they have watches for men, they have watches for women, which will generate this 8 hertz frequency that you use only on your left wrist. But what you'll find is that your body will begin tingling up the left arm and then across the chest, down the right arm, down through the legs, and suddenly all negative energies in your body will be, can I use the word, entrained to the energy of life, the energy of the sun, which is the Schumann resonance at 7.83 hertz. Now, I wouldn't like to rely forever on these things, but when we become unconditional loving, we generate at 7.83 hertz. But at first, it takes us a while before we can lovingly and willingly endure all things. And that's the way it is. We're human. And so sometimes we have to rely upon a little one of these things until we can do it ourselves. Now, this device, if a person has pain in their body, as soon as you put that wristwatch on, the pain will be diminished, and then eventually it'll be resolved, because you're entraining the body to be at that 7.83 hertz, which is the energy of life. There are many people in Canada, I know that this is for a fact, that every cancer patient wears one of these. And they found and believe that this is responsible for bringing life into an area, and then at that time the negative energies of a cancer begin to be converted over to a healthy energy pattern, and the cancer goes into remission. Now, this is in some cases. I'm not saying all cases, but they have found that this is true. Dave, in your research, have you run across the 8 hertz generator?
Yes.
Is there a place in here in Australia where you can get them?
You can probably get one on the internet. Just look for the Schumann. There are papers produced by Rex Research in the USA on how to build one yourself. It's basically a folded coil which doesn't generate any normal EM effects. It generates a scalar field.
That's correct. Yes, it's a, yeah. You're dealing with an informational field or scalar wave. That's right. That's what makes it very difficult to measure unless you know what you're doing. Pardon me?
Summarize that, because he doesn't think people can hear on that mic what he said.
Okay, bottom line, when you're dealing with an informational field, you're dealing basically with scalar waves. Now, Herbert Clark Maxwell was the inventor of this, and his mathematics was of such a nature that he put forth all of this way back years ago. Then a fellow by the name of Tubbyfield comes along and takes the material which Tubbyfield could understand of Herbert Clark Maxwell, and then brought out only that which had to do with the electricity as we know it today, or the electric sending out your electromagnetic spectrum through the radio waves and so on. Now, Herbert Clark Maxwell was a great genius, and it's only been the last few years when people went back and examined Maxwell's original work and found out that Tubbyfield was only able to comprehend about 10% of it and bring that into a mathematical picture which the average scientist could understand. And now people are going back and realizing that Maxwell had the full picture and was able to show how things on the scalar wave, or this or what we call the informational wave, came into being, and this is where your extremely low frequencies have come into being, which come out through your like 7.83 hertz is a very low frequency. It's the average person is incapable of measuring that. You have to have the right equipment to measure that. Did I represent you properly, sir? That's basically it. And so what we have to do is to take a good close look at the informational field and realize that there's much more than just regular radio waves and so on. There's informational field or scalar waves, which are highly technical people today understand. This is the basis of the HAARP equipment that the U.S. government is now testing, which is a pulsed wave that is based upon scalar technology. This is a whole field of its own. Hank?
I'm just reading the book, and I'm only grasping a very, very small bit of it.
Which book?
Harp.
You
Harp.
got it.
Yeah, I've got it.
By Nick?
Yes.
Beglich?
Yeah.
Angels Don't Play This Harp. We got that in Sri Lanka about 3 years ago. I haven't read it yet. Pardon me? The what?
The 8 hertz generator, I don't know. Do you know of someone? Yeah?
That has those,
The 8 hertz?
that has the Tesla watch?
No, it's the generator you put in your room.
8 hertz
Okay, do you have
generator.
something, if you have the Tesla watch, it will be compatible to the human body, and you can carry that with you wherever you go. And it will entrain, for example, if you're a school teacher and you're in the front of the room, it will entrain the entire room full of people. Yes?
I've seen these Tesla watches on the 40-Mile Spirit Festival. That's coming up in Sydney now in November.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, and you can also get them. You can get them from Enzyme International, and the it's Post Office Box 157, Manitowish Waters, MANITOWISH Waters, Wisconsin. WI is the abbreviation. 54545. USA. You can phone or fax them on 715-543-8401. And they also have the Tesla. Everyone get that? Okay, I want to caution people on wearing a battery watch on your left wrist.
Or right wrist.
Or right wrist, yeah. Because this could affect the meridians to the heart. And so therefore, if you have a battery watch on, it's not good, especially in heart conditions. What I have here, I found this one swatch which has a self-wind on it. And there are a couple watches, John doesn't have his on, but I found one for him too that you can self-wind. But it's not good to wear battery watches. Okay, next. Z, replace all fluorescent lights with full spectrum bulbs. Now, this is extremely important. We have the full fluorescent lights here. The fluorescent lights drains the body of vitamin A, creating fatigue within the body, causing skin conditions and eye problems. And there's also tests done with children where they've done research where one class has been in fluorescent lights, the other class has been in full spectrum lights. The one in the full spectrum bulbs has much higher grades. They get much higher grades than the ones in the fluorescent lights.
Did you have the phone number, sir, for the 8 hertz generators?
Not with me at home.
Could you bring it tomorrow?
I live in Queen, sorry.
Pardon me?
I live up in Queen, so I can...
Okay. Well, we'll get it.
Get it to Hank.
Get it to Hank, and then y'all get a hold of Hank and say, hey, where's that number? Okay.
Now, I have an address here for full spectrum bulbs. When I worked in San Francisco, I worked in this one office where I had 2 of those over my desk, 4 bulbs. And I asked my boss if I could replace the bulbs, and he said, sure, if you pay for them. So I went out and I did it. I got the full spectrum bulbs, and I just had the janitor come in and take out those bulbs and put in the full spectrum ones. And it made such a difference that the other girls in the office used to want to sit under my desk because they could get more work done faster. Then when they would go to their own desk, they just felt totally tired. And they'd come to mine and they'd feel refreshed. So it does make a tremendous difference. You may have some of these bulbs in your home. It's good to replace them with the full spectrum. I have an address here in Western Australia, unless Hank knows a closer one. No. Okay, it's called Spectrum International. And it's 74 Hay Street, Hay.
What's that right there?
74 and 88, but 74 should do it.
Okay.
Okay. Subiaco, Subiaco, Western Australia, 6008, and the phone number is 089-381-2777.
What's this number?
That's it, but the 08, this is with the 08.
What's this one then?
I
That's
got one from Melbourne.
09. You have a Melbourne?
What was the street address again?
74 Hay Street.
Then, question, what's this number here?
Well, I think
You changed it, huh?
he changed it to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, they put an 8 in here instead
Yeah,
of, okay,
yeah,
I got it.
Okay, and Tom Ryan is the person to contact on that. Tom Ryan on the full spectrum bulbs. He calls them actually True Light. True Light.
That's an older one, True Light.
Oh, okay, well that would be closer for you to get it from them. True Light.
Are you having fun yet? Okay. We're kind of slugging through all this stuff and to consider.
Do you know John Ott?
Yeah, I've never met the man, but I've read his books.
Okay. Well, John Ott is supposed to be the authority on this, and if you want his address, I have it here. He has, I think, a book on it explaining the whole thing. John Ott, O-T-T, Healing and Light.
Take a break.
132 East Gutierrez, G-U-I-T-T-E-R-E-Z Street, Santa Barbara, California, USA. Anybody want that again? Okay, it's 132 East Gutierrez Street, G-U-I-T-T-E-R-E-Z, Santa Barbara, California, USA. And he's the authority on the full spectrum bulbs, and you can get books, and he probably would send out the bulbs too, but I'm not sure what exactly they have available.
Okay. Now my question is, how are you folks holding up? Do you want to take a short break? I see a couple of people nodding off like this, you know, and I thought, well, maybe we better just get up and walk around a bit. There's some hot water back there for tea and what have you, with compliments of Victoria. Okay. On page 6 of the Ray program, if you'd all turn over there, please. Page 6. Get this one out. You should have that in your pack of goodies. Is there anyone that doesn't have this?
Ray program?
It's the one where it says patient guide on it. Patient guide.
The first one you got this morning.
The one we've been working on.
Right.
What's that?
It's the one we've been working on. The one I've been going down each thing and talking about it. We're now on page 6 of that.
Okay. You got it? Everyone have the patient guide now? Okay, if you turn over here to page 6 where it says the Ray program at the top of the page. You all got that. Now, Ann, you had a question.
Yes, I was asking
What
John.
page?
John, could we take it?
Come up here, please.
Thank you. I was just asking John whether the Tesla watch could change the colour of one's aura.
First of all, what happens with the Tesla watch? It has the ability of changing the energy field of the body, which would include changing the auric field. But the outer manifestation of this is oftentimes if a person has partially brown eyes or brown eyes, oftentimes just with the wearing of the Tesla watch on the left wrist. That will actually change the eye color from brown toward blue. And it'll go from brown to light brown or light brown to green, and sometimes I have seen it go from green to blue. Now with that will be a lessened level of resistance in the body that the person is ready to let go of. Okay? And if that happens, then the auric field around the person is certainly going to change a lot. Okay? But you need an aura photograph to determine that. And there have different aura photographs that will show you the different changes in the auric field.
Now the aura does change, because I've seen shots of people where they've taken these shot of their field at a fair, and then 20 minutes later they've gone back and had another shot, and the aura is totally different. So the aura is in continual change. It's not a stationary thing that stays. It's the aura is in continual change with the amount of love that you're putting out to the rest of the world.
Would it be beneficial to keep point holding during wearing a Tesla watch?
Is that his?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you wanted to know that.
Yes, it would help you to get to a loving state, but eventually you should come to that on your own. Yes. What is this now?
That's that. We talked about that book. That's the name.
Oh, here it is. Flax oil as a true aid against arthritis, heart infarction, cancer, and other diseases. Someone asked us, what is the name of Dr. Joanna Budvin's book? And
His book.
Dr. Joanna Budvig.
Yeah, that's his book.
Oh, and the name of it is Flax Oil as a True Aid Against Arthritis, Heart Infarction, Cancer, and Other Diseases. Thank you.
What was the question just before you talked about auric field?
Pardon me?
Did you just talk about auric field?
Yes.
You know, I've got that 10-minute video on auric field.
Here.
Yes, you've seen it. At Genesana. What was the question on the auric field?
Well, she wants to know
The question was simply, if you wear a Tesla watch, does it change the auric field?
Right.
And I replied that the auric field changes continually with the outpouring of love from the person and the different emotions that the person exhibiting, and the state of healing that a person can exhibit.
If it's okay with you, I'll bring in a 10-minute video tomorrow. It's made by Professor Dr. Valerie Hunt, who worked at UCLA for a long time, and where they had an apparatus where they could record the auric field on video. And it's a very interesting one. It only takes 10 minutes, and we've got a TV here, so I'll bring it in tomorrow so you can have a look at it and see what happens where the love comes in, as Anita just talked about, because the whole energy field expands, and if it's not there, it just really contracts. And it's the same with energetic and non-energetic foods. You can see the difference. So I'll bring it in tomorrow so we can have a look at that.
Okay, on page 6, we're going to start talking about the pupillary ruff, which we'll cover next week, and we'll show pictures of it, and as reference to the central nervous system. For many years, pardon me, for many years I have looked for and searched for a way of healing the central nervous system. And I had no luck at all from all the books that I've read, I've read about using skullcap and valerian root, you know, to help relax and so on, but not to heal the central nervous system. And so I prayed diligently for many, many months and consistently for a period of 6 months. At the end of 6 months, on praying for an understanding of the herbs which would help to heal the central nervous system, I was living at that time in Maui, Hawaii. And I was out walking over the grounds which were well kept by all of us in this beautiful place near the rainforest. It's on the Hana Highway, and it's about 20 acres of very beautiful grounds that we had as part of our healing center there for our advanced students. Now, that's where we had what we call the visualization and consciousness class for the advanced students that went beyond the instructor seminars. Now, at that time, I was quite concerned because of several people coming to me with problems regarding their central nervous system, and I had no answer for them. I didn't know which herb would be of service to them or if there was any herb at all. One day I was out walking over our land, and there was nobody around for a long distance. And I heard this voice speak my name. I turned around, nobody was there. I said, oh, okay. And so I just waited patiently. And that's sometimes a difficult thing for me to do, is to wait patiently. But I waited patiently at this time for what was to continue on, because I had enough experience under my belt to know that if my name was spoken out, there's something following. Now, at that time, I waited, and then this voice spoke again to me. And it was coming from a little plant on the ground wrapped around a certain pole. It was roughly about this high. And the little plant introduced itself to me. Now, you might think this is crazy. I could care less. I'm telling you my personal experience, and I'm telling you that plants can speak as clearly to one another and to people as I'm speaking to you now. And that's the way it is. I've had enough experience along that line, and with other people who have had the same experience, to know this is true. Anyway, this plant spoke to me and introduced itself to me and said that it was the specific herb for healing central nervous system disorders, and explained how to prepare it and what to do with it and so on, and that was wonderful. That's exactly what I asked. I thanked it greatly, and I protected that little herb until some guy had a little glitch in his computer somewhere along the line, and he went out and mowed everything down, including that little herb, which is considered a noxious weed, because it gets in people's lawns. People step on it. It's called the Mimosa paduca. In the Cook Islands, it was called Satani, meaning Satan, because it had the little thorns on it. You step on it and it hurts your feet. But it's also the little plant that when you touch the leaves, it folds up. It folds up. So in the Cook Islands, we call it pikika, which means lying, pikika. And the little plant, pikika, we've grown very accustomed to it, and I'd like to tell you a few stories on that. But in Maui, Hawaii, it grew everywhere. But we didn't know it by the name pikika. At that time, we knew it by Mimosa paduca, or the sensitive leaf plant. Now, what we did is we used a little handful of leaves, approximately 16 leaves, which would make about 2 cups of a strong yellow tea. We'd boil it for about 30 minutes, and what we would do is a person would drink that and then feel a tingling all the way down through their fingers and their toes. And we use this to bring about a healing in central nervous system problems. When a person had a black pupillary frill, which is in the iris of the eye right around the pupil, that black pupillary frill when it becomes healthy, becomes somewhat of an orangish color. But most people had a black pupillary ruff, especially those who were on recreational drugs such as marijuana. Now, what we did is we took people on that particular material and used that as for healing different types of central nervous system disorders. But anyway, after this little plant spoke to me, just like I'm speaking to you, I went very quickly to find my kahuna teacher. I left a message on his answering service, and after a while he showed up. And he asked me what I needed from him. I told him what had happened. He sat down cross-legged in front of that little plant and sat and talked to it for a while. He said, "John, you are absolutely correct. The leaf of this particular plant is for the central nervous system." He says, but the little spherical-shaped flower, which is pinkish lavender in color, is for brain disorders, and the roots are for the digestive system and the intestines to heal those. And I thought that's wonderful. And so that's what I'm passing on to you, is what I had learned from him. Later on, we moved down to the Cook Islands. And they changed the zoning in our location. I could no longer have seminars there. And so we let the land go back the way it came, on a lease option basis. And we just turned it back over to the people that owned it. So what happened, we went to the Cook Islands, and eventually in the Cook Islands, after a year in South Island first, we went back to the Cook Islands. And we found that the sensitive leaf was everywhere around the island, everywhere. We had one in our backyard, a big one. And so we used that little leaf, we showed it to people. We were busy day in and day out working with people. And we're about 12 jumps from the lagoon. But this little sensitive leaf was just absolutely everywhere. One day, our sensitive leaf plant died. And I wondered if somebody put some sort of spray on it to kill it, or maybe the neighbor's dog was a little bit too acid for it, but you know, everything went through my mind, and I couldn't figure out why that plant died. But it just died completely. There didn't seem to be a bit of life back in it, but when I would twist a little twig, the twigs were still alive, and I couldn't figure that out. So we continued on with our work and checked out the neighbor's sensitive leaf plant is all living and well. But what we know was that in Hawaii and then down in the Cook Islands, there was a little runner coming up with 4 leaves on it, coming off the end of it. Pardon me, correction. There was a runner with 3 leaves off the end of it to start with. But then when this plant came back to life in our backyard, it had 4 leaves and 2 leaves on it. And by that time, all of our neighbors' sensitive leaf plant began to die in a radius emanating out from our house. And finally, the whole island, all the sensitive leaf was dying. And when it came back, no longer did it have 3 leaves on the runner. It had 2 or 4. We checked around and found out the island of Attu, the same thing. We checked over to the other islands in northern Queensland. All of a sudden, the sensitive leaf no longer had 3 leaves on it, it had 4 and 2. It changed genetically all over through Polynesia, Tahiti, Papua New Guinea, Hawaii, everywhere it changed genetically. You cannot find a 3-leafed plant anymore in all of where the Mimosa paduca lived. It's non-existent. It changed its genetic quality. And then I realized that as people healed their central nervous system, the plants that responded to that were healed also. And the genetic structures of that changed. And this was a great, great experience for Anita and I to see this happening all over the island. Now, one thing about this particular herb is in the Cook Islands, a lot of the old men, older than 40, had what they called black leg. They had diabetic neuropathy. They had numbness in their feet, numbness throughout all their leg, and their legs were turning black. We had everyone who had this problem starting on the sensitive leaf tea, and they get tingling down their feet, down their leg. The blackness would very quickly go away because now the nerve supply and circulation was back to their body. Now, I think Hank has some sensitive leaf tea here. Now, maybe you could ask Hank about it and ask to see it. We don't want to burden you down with everything all at one time, but this is what you're here for. So anyway, with the sensitive leaf tea, all of a sudden you could take it and you can feel tingling going down your fingers. The nerve supply and circulation would be restored gradually to the entire body. When we moved to the Cook Islands, which we'll talk about next week in iridology, the pupillary frill was black on everybody. And their bodies were numb of nearly all the people who were there in the Cook Islands. After working on the Cook Island people for about 8 years, which is the time that we lived there, after a while that black pupillary frill for everybody was now brown or light brown. It was no longer black. The pigmentation of the eye was changing from dark chocolate brown to lighter brown, and in many cases turning to green, and in some cases partially blue. Now this was quite interesting, and by that time we have seen morphogenetic resonance occur in many different families where as people changed the, shall we say, the resistant level of their body and got nerve supply and circulation back to their body, they went through a tremendous amount of burning, searing, pain as various body parts would be regenerated. We can tell you all kinds of stories about that. One of the papers that we've passed out to you is a story about Babaji Lance Ibbotson, who had heard about our work from people in the United States and came up to the Cook Islands from New Zealand. Now, Babaji was this fellow with the short leg that Anita was talking about at one of the evening lectures. And the leg was much smaller in circumference, and the left leg was much smaller in circumference than the right leg. But Babaji had a hunch on his back. Now watch my hand. He's looking out the window this way, his head's up here. Got it? His back was like this. He had a tremendous kyphotic condition, a tremendous lordosis. His back was twisted and curved and calcified. And so he came to us to see if we could help him get his back straightened out. In the process, not only did his back begin to straighten out, but his leg, which was much smaller and numb on the left side, that reconstructed in front of the four boys who were, and the father. The father was a white man from Hawaii. The four boys were Samoans from their mother, who was a princess in Samoa, but they were all living in Fiji, and they spent half their time in Rarotonga. These boys were gold medalists, silver medalists, and so on in swimming and surfing and one thing or another, and they were great athletes. And so they're all working here on Babaji. Now, at that time, we had about 200 to 300 people there. We could, people were everywhere. And we had 7-point holdings every single week, and the different halls we were in were just full of people holding points on one another. So I didn't have a chance to see Babaji. No. Anita did. But she saw the leg cramping up and burning, and I went out there to see all this. I said, oh, very good, you're doing well. Now just lay there and let it burn, because the whole leg was just burning off with the fire of the Kundalini, which you'll be more acquainted with as time progresses. It's where you have the burning, searing pain of regeneration. Now, Babaji had been on the program religiously for months before he came to see us in the Cook Islands. And he had wonderful results. After a while, his back was just as straight as anybody's back was. And through neglect, it had gone back a tiny bit, but not like it was before. In the meantime, his leg filled in, so both legs were identically the same size. I just want you to know that these things do happen. Babaji, I might add, had also gone through the fire walk, and so it took him a long time before he was capable of feeling pain, because the fire walk blocks off the individual from the ability to feel pain. And so Babaji finally was able to go through the burning of the Kundalini burn on his legs, and then he had a tremendous straightening out of different problems he had with his feet. And then he had problems with his hands, and then he remembered going through the fire walk and with the burning on the hands, and the burning on the hands took place. He remembered the fire walk. He burnt for several hours on his hands, and finally that burning was gone. So he had a great ability to lift off the blockage that the fire walk had upon him, because as you all know, when you go through a fire walk, you don't feel the pain of the burn, because you're dealing with a primal energy at a very deep level, and you're going through in the fire walk shall we say, a rite of passage to prepare you for sorcery work, which all sorcerers have to go through the fire walk so that they can then contact and work with those on the astral realm, which gives them exceedingly great power. They themselves have no power other than what the spirits give them. But those that have gone through the fire walk, I imagine some of you in this class have. That's fine. But you'll have to eventually free yourselves from the bad effects of the fire walk by going through the burning, searing pain of the Kundalini fire, because all of the pain of the fire walk is suppressed in the lower part of the body through the legs and the feet. The bottom part of the feet has a representation, reflex-wise, to every other single part of the body. Okay? And so on the many people who have gone through the advanced work, they've gone through the burning, searing pain of the fire walk and have corrected all of that stuff that had been suppressed for so long. People who have gone through the fire walk seal off their emotionality, where they feel empowered by those from the spirit world. And they're in full contact with those from the spirit world that oftentimes try to control and dictate their lives. Fair enough? Yeah.
What John is talking about is very, very important. We shouldn't take it lightly. I met in Rarotonga a woman who was the niece of a Tounga, and that's a Tounga is like a
like a kahuna.
Like a kahuna, like a kahuna in the Maori. They call it Tounga, and she would heal people when they came to her, but she had made a pact with the spirits that every 11th person would die. The other ones would be all right, but every 11th person would have to die as a sacrifice to the dark spirits. And if the 11th person was a relative that came to her and she didn't want them to die, then she would have to take it of her own. She would have to, her body would be affected. And she wound up with this huge elephantitis where her legs were really huge.
Legs were this wide
Yeah.
around, looking like mushrooms.
Yeah.
Huge legs.
Mm. So this is where, when we start dealing with the dark forces, which when you're doing the fire walk, they do a ceremony before the fire walk which invokes these dark forces, these dark spirits. And therefore, we should not take this process lightly. There's many sightings in the Bible that says do not allow your children to pass through the fire.
And do not pass through the fire, because you'll be cut off from God. Because what happens when you go through the fire, you seal the emotional body on yourself, and you cannot enter into the mental body, at which time you're able to have control of your mental faculties to change the morphogenetic field which heals the body. Therefore, you have to rely upon an outside source in the astral realm to heal your body, which is the wrong way to go. You follow me on this? Okay. In other words, stay away from the fire walk. We do not recommend it at all. In fact, it's a detriment to your progress. By the grace of God, some people have overcome the fire walk, and it no longer has a detrimental hold upon their being. Go ahead, sir.
Just to confirm that most of us know that, especially in the certain organizations, they promote now that you do the fire walk as part of the teamwork. So you can experience this and show that you don't have the fear of doing certain things. And I have a friend, when I was living in Wellington, New Zealand, who was working in the government. He was the ex-director of the Queen Elizabeth Arts Council in New Zealand. And he was quite high up, and part of the training that they, through the government as well, is what they had to do is go through the fire walk. And being a Maori guy, he is also very sensitive. And we had discussed quite a few different things prior to him doing that, and he was quite open to some of the suggestions I'd made and talked about to him. And then he came back to me one day and he said, "Hank, I've done the fire walk." And I knew at that stage, after being in body electronics, what we could expect. And I said, "Well, tell me all about it." And he said, when he was primed up to step onto the coals, the moment he made a decision to do it, he felt like there was an energy coming in from behind and took hold of him.
That's correct.
And from that moment onwards, he just walked the fire, and he said, "I've been feeling so powerful, it's just unbelievable." And what he did, he slipped back into the things he had been doing before, which were quite negative. But so be it. So this is just to reiterate that when these energies get hold of you, it's so easy to step back into the negative aspects of what we're trying to get away from by raising our consciousness.
If any of you have gone through the fire walk, you'll have to pay the price of having gone through the fire walk by going back through it in reverse order, because it is a tremendously powerful experience. Many people that I have talked to felt like they were overcome by a power that they had never experienced before, which gave them empowerment, which they have never had. And they no longer had problems of an emotional nature, because this feeling of empowerment was with them from that time on. We talked about the abortions people go through and how the holes in the aura are there, and the spirits are in these holes in the aura. The same thing is true with the fire walk. It leaves great gaping holes in the auric field of the person, and those are filled by negative energies which take control of an individual, just like a person who has been, even more so than a person who has been on heavy drugs and alcohol for years. And so these are things I want you to understand. If you have never read the Bible, go to a concordance and look up the fire, walking through the fire and so on. You'll find there's about 50 different references telling people and explaining to them, do not go through the fire. Do not do this. Now you got a big boy here coming in from overseas by the name of Tony Robbins. I'm well aware of his darkness. Darkness. Tony Robbins, the great motivator, He's advertised on every single bus. We had 600 people in northern New York area and East Coast who are all involved in body electronics. One of my best teachers went behind my back and had all these people contacted to go through the fire walk with Tony Robbins, saying that I didn't know what end was up, and I wasn't up on the latest things, and don't talk to John, don't even let him know about the fire walk, because he's opposed to the fire walk. And so all these people, all 600 of them that were making progress in body electronics, they all went through the fire walk, and every last one of them at that time, from that time on, body electronics no longer worked for them, and so they all gave it up because it didn't work for them. They couldn't get in touch with the mental body to make the transmutations necessary to bring about a change of consciousness. Are you hearing me? Now, this has been a difficult time for me, because the thing is the fire walk, I knew from the results of it that the fibers that were all anterior went right back into the pigment layer, and the eye color and eye structure had changed on every one of them. Now, this was a big thing for me to see that happen. Now, thank God, all I can say is we have the tools to overcome the detrimental effect the fire walk has had on the body. But people have to follow the instructions that I give them exactly in order to overcome that particular problem. I think that's fair enough. Those who have attended the advanced procedures classes and those who have attended the instructor seminars classes, they have seen these things happen. And they know the effect that the fire walk has on a person, which suppresses their true personality, which is one of God, not one of darkness tied into the astral realm, where a person becomes the slave of the astral. Now, I think that it's wise and to recognize that the fire walk is a preliminary rite of passage and ceremony to bring a person on the very verge of the work of sorcery, because now they can no longer bring about godlike attributes, but they have to depend on the spirit world and the summoning of the spirits for their very strength and for their sustenance. It's a one-way street, and we can turn that around, but people have to want to turn that around properly. Hank, anything more you want to say, sir?
Not at this time, sir.
Okay. Anything you want to say?
No.
Greg, what do you want to say, sir? You're all right? Okay. Now, that fire walk, I want you to know that I'm dead set against it. I'll have nothing to do with it, and I would encourage everyone not to have anything to do with it. If you have been through the fire walk and you have been blessed with that particular experience, then stick with body electronics until you can have that experience removed from your being, that the suppressive effect of the primal energies of the fire walk no longer have an effect upon you. Fair enough? Okay. I make a lot of enemies by telling the truth, but this is the way it is. Greg, I knew you had something you wanted to say.
It's a verse.
This is just my list that I've developed so far. Not only the firework walk will help bring on the unconsciousness within the body. Swearing will also bring on the unconsciousness. Masturbation, electric shock, alcohol, anesthetic, saunas, martial arts, LSD, ecstasy, cocaine, heroin, operations, any sort of recreational drugs, religious type brainwashings, hypnosis, sweat lodges, hot baths, hot showers, hot spa bars, food, fasting for long periods of time, juice fasting for a long period of time, acupuncture, and television will all help hold in the unconsciousness on the body, is my understanding.
Thank you, sir. Anything else? Okay. Now, the next item, no hot or cold drinks. Because when you When you use hot drinks in the mouth, the esophagus, and down to the lining of the stomach, this has a direct reflex on the central nervous system through the pupillary ruff in the iris of the eye. Okay? And this will have a direct negative effect on suppressing the activity of the central nervous system. You find people with the shakes, which is called Parkinson's disease, they're always sipping on something extremely hot or extremely cold. And you find people with other central nervous disorders have an effect upon their body in different ways by drinking hot drinks and cold drinks. And so stay away from hot drinks, stay away from cold drinks. The Chinese, from my observation, have a very interesting way of using what they call the kale in China. It's where they take the drink in their hand with no handle on the teacup, but they just hold it in their hand. And if it's too hot to handle, it's too hot to drink. It's that simple. This is how it was explained to me. While the English person takes the little handle out here, pours the stuff like my mother used to do. She'd take the hot coffee pot, pour the coffee out of her hot coffee pot directly into the cup, and down the hatch it went. And she had one of the biggest, blackest pupillary ruffs you ever saw in your life. And it had an effect upon her where she had a very weak heart. The central nervous system was not working properly. Now, it's just something I was aware of. Any questions?
So you don't drink the sensitive leaf teapot?
No. Wait until it cools off. Drink it lukewarm. Drink it cool. It's the minerals and the essential ingredients in it which do you the good, not the hot or the cold.
What does cold do to you?
Cold does the same thing. It numbs an area. Like if you take ice cold water and put it down there, you'll have a detrimental effect on the functioning of the system, of the stomach. Either hot, excessive heat, or excessive cold will be damaging to your body. Okay, now in the Patient's Guide to Body Electronics, we have here on what we call the 12 points on enzymes. Now you should take this home, study it, and read it very, very carefully. The enzymes are a protein. It's a protein, but according to number 1, this is page 30 in your book. You all have your blue book. I suggested make sure you have one of these. These are excellent, and get these before you go. But enzymes rule over all other nutrients. Enzymes are responsible for nearly every facet of life and health and far outweigh the importance of every other nutrient. Now, enzymes are needed to help control all mental and physical functions. And each body cell has an excess of 100,000 enzyme particles which are necessary for the metabolic processes. Now, there are a number of things here, like number 5. Enzymes are found in all living cells, including raw foods, or those that are cooked at a temperature lower than 116 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, the enzymes begin to perish when the temperature increases beyond 116 degrees Fahrenheit, about 43 degrees centigrade. Now, the degree of enzyme destruction is a function then of time and temperature. Now, this goes on. I want you to get this and read this and memorize it. Now, did we get the... Hank, could you help me? Right there next to the wall is the enzyme material. If you'd pass that out to everybody. Thank you, sir. Now, the first thing here on the Zone 1 ring, which we'll talk about next week in the iris of the eye, this has to do with the, when you read it, if there's a Zone 1 ring there, this means that we have an enzyme deficiency problem. The darker the ring, the greater the problem with the lack of enzymes. By the very fact that it's there, if in a brown eye it's definitely there, And it shows there that we have to correct the enzyme deficiency. And as this is gradually corrected, then we start seeing the brown discoloration go in the eye. And after a while, the only thing we have left that's brown before that clears up is right around the pupil in a big wagon wheel, which we'll describe next week. We have all kinds of slides to go through to show you exactly what has to be done. Now, normally, for your notes on the Ray program sheet, you there? Okay. On the food enzymes, use the number 1 NESS. N-E-S-S. That will be the same as the food enzymes from Enzymes International. We have recently found that by comparison, by the new testing methods they have on the efficacy of the proteolytic enzymes, the lipase, and the amylytic enzymes, that the NESS enzymes are far more powerful than the Enzymes International, which justifies getting the NESS enzymes. Now, we did some work over there with Graham Bennett, and Graham put this comparisons together, and I was literally floored by it because I hadn't done this before, because we hadn't had the information before. And now we do. And so on the food enzymes, to help with your digestion, to correct long-standing enzyme deficiencies, take 2 capsules with each raw meal. And if you have, and that will help to correct long-standing enzyme deficiencies. If you have cooked food, take 4. 2 of them to help digest the food that you destroyed by cooking, and 2 to help correct the long-standing enzyme deficiency. Now, where you have that little asterisk on the left there, this is the area you have to pay close attention to, because to help with the immune system, which is low in everybody, especially if you bathe in Sydney water, which is full of fluoride, if you bathe in Sydney water, your immune system is going to be suppressed in its activity. If you drink it, you're in real trouble, because the immune system is really suppressed. And this is what we have to work on first, is get that immune system going. And during that, you'll have first experiences possibly with the healing crisis that we need to have. Any question on that? Okay, so the protease here, you take a couple of capsules with each meal. Anita?
I just want to clarify. See the little asterisks outside? That is full program. So when we say full program, that's what we're talking about. Those little stars on the side of those nutrients.
Where do you get the NESS?
Anita has the address. Now, let me explain what we have going here. We have a company in Auckland that wants very much to handle the products for the Ray program. In about 2 to 3 months, they'll be ready, and this will be Pacific Health and Fitness in Auckland. You can write to and ask for any program sheets or price sheets on the Ray program. Now, let me look at the address. Hang on. Pacific Health and Fitness, and the address is 6 Gordon Street, Morningside, in Auckland. Now, write them a letter, tell them that you would like to have a price sheet when available on the Ray program, and they will ship you what you need from New Zealand at this time, because New Zealand can use the enzymes, but other enzymes coming in from the United States are very difficult to get them through customs because they don't conform to the Therapeutic Goods Act. But you can get them out of New Zealand. The phone number is 09-815-0707. They will help you with product information and anything that you need concerning this. At the present time, you can get the NESS enzymes from
New Zealand?
No, the Center for Advanced Medicine in Takapuna. And trying to remember the street number. I don't remember the street number on that.
Okay, I'll get that for you.
He just moved out there. Write to Dr. Maurice, M-A-U-R-I-C-E, Archer. He handles the food enzymes all throughout all of New Zealand. His address
15 Anzac.
is Post Office Box 33-714 in Takapuna. That's Takapuna in Auckland, New Zealand. Okay? And you tell them what kind of enzymes you want, and he'll send you a price. Tell him you're working with me, and you want the body electronic discount. Okay? And he'll give you the price sheet which will be for the body electronics people.
You want phone number?
Phone number?
Phone number on at Center for Advanced Medicine is 09-489-9227.
And the fax?
And the fax is 09-489-5561.
Okay. Now they have the NES enzymes exactly the way we want them.
Mm-hmm.
And Maury will be very helpful to you by posting to you whatever you need. Now he only posts to people who are trained in body electronics and other practitioners. But he's considering that when people get trained in body electronics, they know what they're doing, and he'll then post them what they need for their own legitimate uses. Now, the next thing you need to look at carefully here is on the mature green pawpaw. And Anita has already gone through that with you on the smoothie. The other things in here will be specific for people with specific problems, which will be handled during the instructor seminar, and also in part during the iridology. So we're leaving some of this out and going over the basic program with you. Now the next one, because of protein deficiency problems. One thing we have in protein deficiency, look at your thumbnails and the nails on your fingers. If you have the longitudinal ridges, okay, the ridges on your fingernails, then that means that you will be having a problem with your protein digestion, and you'll have a protein deficiency problem. Now, any cancer patient, for example, will have a protein deficiency problem, so therefore, don't starve them from protein because the cancers are already consuming the protein in their body. Correct the long-standing protein deficiency so that their health may be maintained and they don't just waste away. And then gradually, the cancer will be consumed back in the body as the health is restored to the body. As you give them the protein, which is already in a state of pre-digested protein. All the amino acids will be there. The hormones can then be manufactured and secreted into the body. We start having a very good return of health. So the grain fields, grains and greens will be from the AGM fermented foods, and Anita will give you the address on that. Now get this one down. Now, if you will have to tell them you're on the body electronics program, because where's that bottle? The acidophilus? It's all over in the back there? Okay, on that big bottle of acidophilus, that's BE acidophilus, lactobacillus. But the address...
AGM Fermented Foods, 104 Berrima Street.
Spell Berrima.
B-E-R-R-I-M-A. Berrima, is that how you say it? Yeah. Berrima Street? Okay. In Wynnum. W-Y-N-N-U-M, Queensland, 4178. Phone number is 07-3396-2866. And the fax is 07-3396-2883.
Now, I think there may be a phone number change. If is that the latest phone number? Okay, we're all right then. Now, that is if you're going to order case lots. If you're going to order one at a time, talk to Hank, okay?
Hank's got 'em right back
Hank's
here.
got them back here, and you can get started on that. But the only way you can get it is by ordering them by case lots through the through H&HM, because they handle it that way. Now, any questions on that? Come in, sir. Join us. So that pre-digested powder then is exceedingly important for us. And that's why we have the grain fields, grains, and greens. Now, if you are anemic, the grains and greens are specific for people who have a low iron content and are extremely tired and worn out. That's because the grains and greens, the greens have the chlorophyll in a pre-digested state that the body can assimilate, which we talked about earlier. And the chlorophyll then goes through the biological transmutation into the iron, which will then help to alleviate the anemic condition. Now, this chlorophyll is exceedingly important because we've had people, Jehovah's Witnesses, for example. Anybody here a Jehovah's Witness? Anybody Jehovah's Witness? If you are a Jehovah's Witness, you've been scared out by now. But the thing is, here, I'm serious. I'm very serious about that, because because a lot of them can't handle some of the things that happen when point holding takes place, as the entities are released, you know, during as the holes in the aura are closed up. But the thing is that Anita worked in the Cook Islands with some Jehovah's Witnesses, where they would not allow a transfusion, and their hematocrit had dropped down so low they were on the verge of death and were dying. And so Anita goes in and gets them all chuck full of chlorophyll in green drinks and whatnot, and they took it in, and within about 3 days she was back to normal again.
Yeah.
The bleeding had stopped, everything was in good shape. It's amazing what good healthy food will do for you. I'll say this gently, in nearly every hospital that I have been familiar with, the food is designed to keep a person there. I don't know how people can survive on the diet they put people on with you know, in a hospital. It's just deadly. Anyway, on the bottom of page 6 is the grain fields powder, which is simply the pre-digested protein, which is less than the grain fields, grains, and greens. But if a person is not anemic, they don't need the grains and greens. Most people are anemic. Most people are iron deficient because of the diet that we're exposed to today. So we've got that situation. What time do you have behind you, sir?
3 minutes.
Pardon me?
3 minutes to go.
It's after 6.
3 minutes before.
Oh, 3 minutes to go. Okay, we finished page 6. Now, what I'm not going to start on the intestines, which is page 7. But I simply want to thank Hank, and I want to thank Victoria for organizing all of this, the help that Greg has been to these lovely people, and for Dave for you showing up, for making sure that we have this thing well documented. And I want to thank Anita for her startling and thrilling presentation. You know, this little gal used to be all hunched over with rheumatoid arthritis. Her knees were like this, her ankles were like this. Her back was like big pieces of golf ball all the way up and down the spine. Her jawbone was all frozen like this where she could barely open it. Her neck was all like this so she couldn't turn it. And ever since she got the calcification out of there and the calcification out of her jawbone, I haven't been able to keep her quiet. And all that she's had bottled up in there is coming out just beautifully with all the knowledge that she has. It's amazing how when you're sick with rheumatoid arthritis, how it completely suppresses your ability to perform. But Anita was bedridden with rheumatoid arthritis at one time, big time. And it's nice to see her running down the beach, you know, with her hair blowing back and forth. For a long time, she could hardly waddle. She would have to go up stairs just very slowly, like this, painfully. Her knees wouldn't bend. It was all calcified. Ankles were all calcified. Feet were all calcified. Fair enough? I hope you get her story sometime, because some of you have problems with arthritis. It all heals. I assure you that that is the case. It took her a while. It takes everybody a while to overcome their problems on this program. Be patient with yourselves. Okay, what should I have said, Hank, that I didn't say?
And while you're patient with yourself, enjoy it.
Very good.
Yes.
But I want to thank you for being a very loving, receptive group today. I hope we haven't worn you out. No, we didn't. Okay, very good. We'll be gathering together here tomorrow at what time, Hank?
Start at 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock?
9 a.m.
Greg, did you have something you wanted to announce? No. Okay. Victoria, anything you want to say? Okay. Now, if you want some product to get going on, maybe Hank and Victoria could help you with that. Anita is going to be helping you with the books. For any of you who want to purchase any books.
If anybody wants any, we do have the books here. John's books, 1, 2, and 3, and we have the second book of Acts, which we've talked about at the free lectures.
And the patient guide.
And the patient guide we have.
Now, for all of these seminars, they're at 20% discount. All the seminars and lectures that I give. That's just a standard procedure. And so the books, if you want them, now's the time to get them at the discounted prices.
20% discount on all John's books.
Fair enough.
So,
Pardon me? You got them all. Have you read them all? Do you understand them all? No. That's honest. That's honest. Very good. Well, folks, you have a very lovely evening. We'll see you tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning.
have a wonderful lovely day. Thank you.
Try to get here about 5 minutes early.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The interesting thing with the sensitive